We हाँ बोला सर हाँ
क्या मुसीबत है यार। Hello everyone. We will start very shortly. I'm sorry. Hello everyone. I welcome all of you all and a very good afternoon. On behalf of VS College of Pharmacy, I, Mrs. Sonali Mahendra Munch, Assistant Professor from VS College, welcome our Chief Guest, PD Chaudhary, Keynote Speaker, Dr. Anil Gandhi, Resource Person for the day, Mr. Amrish Dave, and all the participants to the national level induction program designed for MPharm students entitled Transition from a Graduate Student to a Research Scholar. The program is very well drafted by our own faculties of duration over 30 hours, commencing from today till 21st August 2020. It gives us immense pleasure to share with you all that the previous live performances in the lockdown period was conceived really very well and received appreciation from all the corners. To name a few, the list includes 3-day technical session on design of experiment in the pharmaceutical research and development, a primer for academia, 3-day session on product development in the era of QBD and ICH QA, a primer for academia, 2-day session on career guidance for competitive exams, demonstration of virtual experiments of BPharm, 3-day session on understanding NAC accreditation process and expert opinion. The list is still on, which includes non-technical webcast and soft skill development sessions. All these sessions are available on our YouTube channel. So I kindly request all of you all to visit the same and get connected. This series of talk commencing from today has an objective to inculcate research aptitude in MPharm students who will be entering in the research lab to carry out their project work. Additionally, it will also help the students to understand multidisciplinary approaches in order to do translational research work, which will lead them to the innovation. We are glad to share you that we have received around 900 registrations, which captures around 85% of students and others as faculties. In true sense, this induction program is getting national level recognition as it includes registrations majorly around 75% from Maharashtra and others from various corners of other states. With this, I welcome all of you all and I take this opportunity to introduce our principal madam, Dr. Supriya Shidle, a driving force for the consistently raising the bars in academics and research standards and attaining the same with her systematic way of approach. She is a chairperson of Board of Studies in Pharmacy and member of RRC committee at the University of Mumbai. She has 28 years of research and teaching experience. She has received total amount of research grants from government bodies and industry projects worth rupees 1 crore 6 lakhs 84,000. She has 53 national and international publications on her credit. And in this COVID period, we are consistently moving ahead and trying to adapt and evolve under her guidance with constant motivation. I request Madam to address our wonderful audience for the day.
Thank you, Mrs. Sonali, for your kind words. Good afternoon, one and all. Respected Honorable Professor P.D. Chaudhary, President, APTIS Central. Keynote speaker, Dr. Anil Gandhi, Associate Professor, VS College of Pharmacy. Resource person for the day, Mr. Amrish Dave. Esteemed faculty members who are registered and who are attending this program, and dear research scholars. On behalf of VS College of Pharmacy, I welcome all of you to this 30 hours induction program of transition from a graduate student to a research scholar. It is my proud privilege to introduce our organization to this August gathering. Vivekananda Education Society was founded in 1962 by a great visionary, late Sri Ashuji Advani. Today, there are 26 institutions and more than 20,000 students studying at VES. VES offers programs in various disciplines such as engineering, management, PGDM, Polytechnic, Architecture, Law, Arts, Science, and Commerce. All these institutions have marked their strong presence in the field of education through their high standard of quality of education. VS College of Pharmacy is a brainchild of our senior most trustee and president of Vivekananda Education Society, Shri B.L. Bulani ji. He, with the helping hand of Professor Jharna Das Madam, our chief coordinator, and Professor J.K. Lala, former principal of KM Kundanani College of Pharmacy, established VS College of Pharmacy in the year 2007. In the span of 13 years, our institution has grown by leaps and bounds. Presently, we are offering B.Pharm program with 100 intake, M.Pharm and PhD programs in various branches affiliated to University of Mumbai. Our B.Pharm program has also received permanent affiliation of University of Mumbai. Our vision is to create competent pharmacy professionals who can impact healthcare of society positively. With this vision in the mind, our institution has a mission to set up state-of-the-art infrastructure, recruit experienced and dedicated faculty members, and committed support staff who would be working towards maintaining high quality of education in our institution. We strive hard to maintain active industry-institution interaction. We have a joint research collaboration with Procter & Gamble and some more prominent companies. BES is a scientific and industrial research organization that is CSIRO, recognized by DSIR, Government of India. AICT CII survey for the best industry-linked institutions has recognized our institution consistently by rating platinum ranking over many years and conferring first rank in year 2018 Pan India. In order to maintain innovation and research ecosystem at our institution, we have invited Professor Mangal Nagasenkar, Madam, and Dr. Anil Gandhi as our research advisors. And our institution has successfully completed some industry and government-sponsored projects under their able guidance. Keeping the objectives of inculcating entrepreneurship aptitude among our students, we have set up the institution's innovation cell as per the guidelines of MHRD Innovation Cell. Our annual activities such as Ideathon, Ignition, then Technology Showcase have always received very good response. And in 2019, we have received 4-star rating by MHRD Innovation Cell for our institution's innovation cell. We have Campus to Corporate Transition Cell working actively for the holistic development of our students, and we keep on increasing exposure of our students to the professional world by conducting add-on courses, certificate courses, seminar, workshops as a regular activity of our Campus to Corporate Transition Cell. Our students have always reciprocated our efforts by demonstrating all-round performances in their professional career, which gives us further motivation to work harder for their development. Recently, our research scholars received gold medals in Inter-University Research Convention, Avishkar, and University of Mumbai felicitated us by runner-up championship trophy at Avishkar 2019. Our achievements in research with more than 130 publications and 6 patents and progressive academic track record helped us in improving our NIRF rank from 67 last year to 63 in this year. We have a long way to go, and our team is committed to serve to the professional growth of our student community. Today's induction program is one such humble attempt to contribute in the development of pharmacy professionals. I'm sure your knowledge and skills will be empowered in this 30-hour program to become more confident and proficient research scholars. I thank you. I thank Dr. P.D. Chowdhury for accepting to be chief guest for this function. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mrs. Sonali, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the brief introduction about our college. It's our privilege to have with us Dr. P.D. Chowdhury as a chief guest. He is a principal at PE Society's Modern College of Pharmacy, Pune. His research in the field of pharmaceutics include 156 publications with the cumulative impact factor of 76, 15 presentations, 6 books published, 2 patents granted, and 4 patents application filed to his credit. He has guided 65 MPharm students and 14 PhD scholars. He has in total research grants of 33.6 lakhs. His individual recent achievements include Best Principal Award for 2017-18 category, Professional Colleges by Savitribai Phule, Pune University. ITMA Award 2016 for Best Research Paper in Pharmaceutics. His command on teaching skills and in research endeavor has been recognized on many other platforms too. I'm sure many participants, especially the faculties who all are present here, know him for his presence at various positions held in the pharmacy profession, and thus, to name the few, he is a president of Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India, the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Savitribai Phule Pune University, member and peer team National Board of Accreditation NBA New Delhi, member of Indian Pharmaceutical Congress Association in the tenure of 2016 to 2021. When I was going through his CV, I noted that almost all the departments he has been an active member at Savitribai Phule University. It includes Academic Council, Board of Examination, Board of Studies, Research Recognition Committee, and many more. He is also a member of governing body at D.Y. Patil College of Pharmacy, member in Business Council PE Society Pune, member Board of Life Members for PE Society at Pune. He has been invited as resource person for NAC and MBA accreditation. Sir, we all are fortunate to have you with us, and I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear from you. I request sir to address the audience.
Thank you, Sonali ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So, Principal Dr. Supriya Sidhe ma'am, the management of Vivekananda Education Society Chembur, all the faculty members who are attending this program all over the country, pharma graduates, research scholars, very good morning to one and all. It's really a great pleasure that to welcome all of you on the occasion of this national level online induction program for MPharm students. The program entitled from a graduate student to transition from a graduate student to a research scholar. I think I would like to congratulate at the outset to Dr. Supriya Sidhe ma'am, Principal of Vivekananda College of Pharmacy, Chembur, and her team of very dedicated faculty members for taking this initiative and organizing this wonderful event for the PG students. I congratulate the host organization for their concerted efforts and the concern that they have shown in updating and upgrading the aspirant research scholars with the knowledge of softwares and the equipment. When I gone through the brochure of this program, I came to know that In this induction program, a series of webinars from the eminent speakers from academia and industry, along with virtual tours of the laboratories and a live demonstration of the softwares and the equipment will be organized and conducted for the PG students. I have witnessed the growing phase of this institution. Now, I am very proud to say that the Vivekananda Education Society's College of Pharmacy is one of the premier institute imparting the quality education beneath the umbrella of Mumbai University under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Supriya Shidde ma'am, and the institute has carved a special niche in imparting the pharmacy education by securing a rank in top 100 colleges at national level continuously in last 3 years. Also, the college is taking consistent and concerted efforts for the holistic development of students and the faculty members, and continuously organizing conferences, webinar, FDPs, seminars to provide ideal forum to bring together the pharmacy teachers, industry, experts, scholars of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary sectors to discuss, deliberate, and interact with each other on the topic of current interest. So, congratulations, team Vivekananda Society's College of Pharmacy. Congratulations to Shidde ma'am. Moving to the topic of this induction program, transition from a graduate student to a research scholar. Friends, to prepare yourself for this transition, you need to understand the 5 points which I am going to speak today. First point is to understand what is research. Second, what are the qualities you must develop to be a good researcher? Third, what should be your focus while starting the research activities? Fourth, step-by-step path or the process towards your ideas. And fifth, very important, is 5 R's involved in research planning. So today I am going to talk on these 5 points in my speech. So the first, let us start with the first point, that is, what is research? Research, it has a many definitions. But if you ask me the research in a very simple language, I can define is finding out a black cat in a very dark room where we don't know whether the cat is really exist or not. Friends, research is an exploration of science in a specific domain. Since we are dealing with the pharmacy profession, the research for pharmacy is an exploration of science in a pharmacy domain. So fortunately, there are many untouched areas in pharma that needs to be explored. Today, all eyes are set on pharma professionals for the solution of corona. So, corona and other life-threatening diseases. Totally, if you ask me, research is the backbone of the developed nations, while with the growing economy. So if you look at US, UK, Germany, China, Japan, these all nations are today standing on the foundation of research they have laid decades ago. The government, Indian government, is constantly motivating research by providing a massive financial support through various schemes for startups to the young researcher. Our Honorable Prime Minister has rolled out a great bouquet of opportunities before you. The Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the Atal Innovation Mission is especially developed under the Niti Aayog to channelize the high-end research. Moreover, the Atal Tinkering Lab is a program especially developed to foster the curiosity and the innovative mindset in the young students. Dear students, you all belong to a millennial generation that has a tremendous support.
Sir, your mic is muted. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So the most of the successful organizations like Google, YouTube, Ola, Oyo are the brainchild of young graduates like you. Research should be focused upon the three prime aspects. Those are first, a societal relevance. Your research domain or your research should be aimed to benefit the society and the mankind at large. Second, focus is a multidisciplinary approach. Your research should involve a collaborative and multidisciplinary idea so as to strengthen its scope. And the third and very important aspect is the cost effectiveness. The cost effectiveness and affordable to the large population. These are the very important focus one should have while starting the research. And these are the main key areas for the success of IT and electronic industry. You know, China, Japan, and Korea are the leading manufacturer of electronic items like smartwatches, smartphone, smart TVs, etc. Now we'll see what qualities that are developed when you enter in a research laboratory, or what qualities you must have when you are entering into the research domain. Research will inculcate the attitude of planning. If you want to do research, you should have a plan with you. Attitude of creativity, it emphasizes you on thinking on the critical aspects. Attitude of accepting a challenge. You don't know whether we are getting positive results or negative results, so it's really a challenge for you. Attitude of digesting the failure. This is also one of the important attitude that you are going to learn while doing the research. Attitude of sustaining the data confidentiality. Confidentiality is one of the most important criteria for the research. And moreover, the research develops self-confidence of a research scholar. These are the attitude that forms a backbone of success at life. However, inculcation of wrong attitude involving piracy, plagiarism, and research theft has pulled us back on all the international funds as far as the healthcare system are concerned. It is a matter of pride for every Indian, as we are blessed with the rich heritage of traditional system of medicine like Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, Yoga, Naturopathy. But beside this, today, Germany is much more advanced in Ayurvedic practice than what we are. Now we'll see what are the research step-by-step path or the process towards your idea. The first step, that is conceiving an idea. So you have to take time, think critically and innovatively, think of the current situation, current need of the hour and the demand. The second step is a data collection. Extensively search for your idea or similarity of your idea and collection of data. You can say surfing our data. Step 3 is a tremendous brainstorming. You have to discuss with your friends your idea. You have to discuss with your mentor, your guide, your parents, and get their views on this your idea. Step 4 is the procurement of raw material. This is the time consuming process. Dedicate a specific time for this step, and meanwhile try to recognize your idea. Step 5 is work upon your hypothesis. Report every minute of aspect, result, Constantly be in touch with your mentor and guide, and internet for the finding. So, and the last step, 6.1, it is assembling all the data, rethink on the application of the data that you have obtained. So these are the various steps, and my suggestion is don't insist always for the positive result in the research. Many journals do accept research articles based upon a negative results too, which is an important thing. So do not forget to note the reason of failure in your research. This reason can be of great help to you and others throughout your life. During commencement of research, try to involve as many R for research in your research as possible. So everybody should remember that your research planning should involve 5 R's, which I am going to discuss with you today. These 5 R's are refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Let us see what to refuse. First R is a refuse. Refuse to plagiarism, refuse to cheating or a false claim of your results. The second R refers to reduce. What we have to reduce? Reduce the investment of money, reduce the pollution, and adopt a green research approach. The third R is reuse. So what we have to reuse? The product you aim to develop should be reused. The raw material you have in excess should be reused. So that can be reusable. So reuse is the third R. Fourth one, repurpose. Do not feel low if your hypothesis doesn't work. Instead of, you can try to apply your ideas and the product to treat or to develop a new possibility. You might be knowing, all the pharma graduates are attending this program, might be knowing aspirin, initially invented for NSAID. Now this drug is repurposing. The repurposing of this drug, it is used as a product ecosprin for anticoagulation. Recently, hydroxychloroquine, anti-malarial drug, it is repurposing for the treatment of coronavirus. So this type of many examples are there. Last but not the least, recycling. We are using many solvents, organic solvents, and many things, raw materials during our research. So make sure that most of the raw material you are using can be recycled so as to save the cost, and the product you are developed can be recycled. Friends, with this, I want to conclude my speech. To summarize my speech, I have discussed with you today is, first, what is the understanding, what is the research? Second, what are the qualities you must develop to be a good researcher? Third, what should be your focus while starting the research? Fourth, we have discussed step-by-step path or process towards your ideas. Fifth, last but not the least, 5 R's, which are very important in planning of research, that are refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Last but not the least, hope this induction program would bring a new zeal and ecstasy in all the participants who are participating from all over the country. And I'm confident that all the meaningful discussion, fruitful deliberation, broad interaction, and sharing of views in this induction program would certainly give an impetus to excel further in your domain. Thank you for patiently listening, and I profusely thank the management of Vivekananda Education Society, Chembur, Principal Dr. Supriya Siddhe Madam, all the faculty members of BES COP for inviting me and give an opportunity to interact with all the budding research scholars. I also propose to thank and congratulate all the resource persons who are going to contribute in this induction program by updating our pharmacy research scholars on the virtual practical training. I wish a great success to this induction program. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for such a wonderful speech. No doubt, as you all have said very well, that the social relevance is a key aspect of the research, and in fact, all of us are witnessing it currently with the COVID situation. The point which you have also said regarding the correct attitude that every student should have, in fact, that is our objective to focus upon when we are considering our students to getting step into the research lab. Also, the 5R values that you have stated: refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Definitely, if students will apply them in his or her project, definitely, technically, the project would be sound, no doubt about it. But at the same time, it will bring a holistic development in a student as a human being as well. So thanks a lot, and I'm sure students must have taken a note of it, and they will definitely try to imbibe these 5 hours when they will actually start with their projects work. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Moving ahead, we also have with us our keynote speaker for the program, Dr. Anil Kumar Gandhi. Dr. Anil Kumar Gandhi is associated with the Vivekanand Education Society's College of Pharmacy as associate as a professor and a research advisor. He is also working as a consultant to many drug delivery companies in the area of solubilization, gastroretention, control release systems, dispersible tablets, and ODT, etc. Overall, he has more than 18 years of industry experience in the space of NDDS and generic formulation development, analytical development, clinical studies, and intellectual property management. Dr. Gandhi was involved in the development of projects for ANDA submissions, particularly phase 3 and 4 filings. Dr. Gandhi has 30 granted patents and more than 70 patent applications covering various aspects of novel drug delivery systems. He has 5 international publications, 18 presentations, and 1 book chapter to his credit, apart from several review articles. He is also a renowned speaker and has spoken on many forums, including Colorcon's Innovation Forum, BASF's Exact event, Select Bio seminar on novel formulation strategies, and so on. I request sir to please share your views with our audience.
Thank you, Sonali madam, and thank you, VS College of Pharmacy, for inviting me on this very nice initiative. At the outset, I would like to thank our chief guest, Dr. Praveen Chaudhary, for making my job both easy and difficult. Why I say easy is because you set up the precedent, set up the tone of the discussion with respect to with respect to giving an overall perspective of the research, and also how a student should carry out research. So that's a very good setting up the tone for the session. And difficult is that I have to now carry on further with whatever he has said in the same interesting manner and same exhaustive manner. So it's going to be a real challenge. So it was really nice to hear you, sir. And with that brief background, let's start with the first slide of my presentation, which I've titled as Research, Why, What, and How. So basically what we're going to talk about is that how do we kind of select a research project? How do we go about doing the research? What are different steps? Some of the things you might see overlapping with what Dr. Chaudhary mentioned. However, I think because that's obviously because there's going to be a common approach with targeting certain principles of the research. So that's going to be reinforcing what he already mentioned. And then we will be also looking at the transition part of it. Students in research transition. What actually happens when a graduate student enters the research lab? And then we will also have look at some project examples where I would like to really focus on how do you select your research topics, how do you go about focusing a particular aspect of research project, and how do you ensure that it is a multidisciplinary project, and why that multidisciplinary is needed. We will also look at it. So let's get started. Now, this is going to be a little general part that's, why a research culture is needed in an institute. It's a very broader perspective. And this is also important considering the fact that there are a lot of faculty members as well present in this forum. So obviously research, research culture gives a lot of recognition and reputation to the institute from both government and industry, and it's really very important in terms of either we talk of placing our students into industry or doing projects for industry, asking for some grants to upgrade ourselves, to upgrade the research facilities, and so on. So the recognition and reputation through research culture is very important. And you will see that the ranking that government gives, that NIRF ranking, one of the very important aspect in this ranking is the research culture in terms of publications, patents, and so on. Then it also helps, for consultancy for professor, because what happens is you develop a research culture with a focus that, you have a specialization in a particular area. So that helps, for consultancy. Obviously, better placement for students, both in terms of their capability as well as the image that they carry for the institution. Financial stability for institution, of course, in terms of grants, and then very important aspect, and which you will see that government is constantly putting more and more emphasis, is to have startups and entrepreneurship and innovation culture in the institutes, higher education institutes. So all these things really boils down to what kind of research culture does an institute have. And what is a desirable research culture? Basically, if you see that one of the very important aspect of research culture is challenging each other. And I'm sure you all will appreciate that challenging each other is for the betterment, for the purpose of attaining a goal, for the purpose of improving the standards, and not for some other reasons. But where we have a very good research culture, you will always notice that there is always a mechanism wherein each other students challenge each other, faculty members challenge each other, and thereby constantly raising the bar. Excuse me. Second thing, or a second feature, is that focused and targeted research, and this is also very important aspect, that each faculty member you take, or as an institution as a whole, will have a focused area or a targeted research area. Let's say, take an example that particular academic institutes works on supercritical facilities. So supercritical chromatography, or supercritical reactions, or supercritical fluid, which is used even in the formulation. So then you will see that they will have all necessary setup with respect to this, in terms of generating the supercritical, storing it, how do we use it, all that thing will be focused, equipment wise, the facility wise, all that thing will come when you have a research culture which is targeted towards a particular area. And it helps, obviously, that anybody from industry wants any project to be done in the supercritical area, they will obviously approach this research institute. Next is thoughtful research, and I say thoughtful research is why because sometimes you do see that the research is done for the purpose of doing just a research, and not a meaningful research means you have a you don't go in a standard streamlined way. Although again, Dr. Chaudhary mentioned that finding a black cat in a dark room, that's what research means. Really, it's a very challenging thing. But having said that, you can have your own approaches how you're going to find a cat in that room, or how you're going to determine whether there is a cat at all in that room or not. So there is a thoughtful research which is very important. Then obviously research papers and patents, they reflect what is the kind of research culture that an institute have. You will see that where there is a good research culture, students will spend more and more time in library. There will be a lot of journals available for reading, or there will be subscription. So we can't now in this today's world just correlate time spent in library with the directly with the research culture, because a lot of things are available electronically, and therefore you may not actually have to spend so much time in library. But what this phrase really means that you do lot of literature search, lot of information and background data collection. You don't end up doing something what we called as the reinventing the wheel. Somebody in world somewhere has already done, and then you are doing that same thing and probably arriving at the same conclusion because you never looked at that particular paper. So this is something which is not fruitful in terms of overall enrichment of science. And last is no constraint on time. Typically you will see that when people are doing research, they still feel that that okay, I've spent so many hours and that's enough for the day, I need to go, I should be going. Research is not done in that way, that a time bound way. Research is something which is done without considering time in your really activity. Of course, that doesn't mean that you don't plan and you don't go home and spend your days in lab. It doesn't mean that. But what it really means that everything, planning itself should not be taking into consideration the constraints of the time. So this is something what brings in a very good research culture. Now, how do we develop this research culture? There are three very important elements of it: the trust element, the norms, and the embed research culture in the institute. Now, what do we mean by trust? As we saw earlier, is the open discussion is one of the very important ways of building trust, challenging each other, sharing the experience. Also, Professor Chaudhary mentioned about failures, that you may end up with failures, and he very rightly says that one of the quality is that the research teaches you to digest failure. I would take this part little ahead, that it does teach you to digest failure, but it gives you also strength to share your failure with others, because what happens is that the sharing of failure has its enormous value. The value that sharing of failure is that somebody else will not go on that path, so that there is a saving of his time, and that time what is saved will be used for some better purposes or better research activity. So sharing of failures is really important. And secondly, it is also important that when there is a sharing of failure, there is a possibility that somebody has some idea about why that was a failure, and could help with overcoming this failure with some other aspects which is not thought about. So the sharing of failures, and really friends, this sharing of failures require courage, and therefore it becomes very important. If you have that kind of culture environment, it helps. Norms is something which is how you actually go about doing these discussions, develop a consensus on the behaviors, attitudes, how you are standard procedures. There are few procedures which are needed, and those procedures, if you build in, that really helps to develop such research culture. Then embedding the culture in the in the institute itself, you may have a research culture day, and you organize presentation, workshop, and so on. But basically, it should become part of the institute. Like you have the part of the institute is the student studying for exams, student preparing for exams, appearing for exams, and so many other things like that. This research should become part of the culture or part of the daily routine. And there is one more very important aspect is role models and interactions. And this is very important when you have such good research being done, the faculty members themselves or the students coming out from the faculty having really good career or having started their own startups or becoming entrepreneurs. All that thing really makes them as the role model of for any institute. And like VES College has an alumni, which is very active alumni association, who actually every month publishes the best alumni of a month, and that kind of becomes a very encouraging part for the students. So this is something also helps in building the research culture. So basically, what are three pillars? I mean, three pillars are the faculty members, institution, and student themselves. These are very important and very significant pillars of any research culture. Now, let's get into some very important aspect that is very commonly discussed about is multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary research, and what is the simple disciplinary research. So if you talk of disciplinary research, means that students carry out research projects separately in each discipline. Just to give you example is that a synthesis person will just carry out, he's given a task to develop or synthesize a particular chemical moiety, and he will do all that thing in the lab, develop that isolate and purify that chemical moiety, and he finishes there. That he was asked to make a particular chemical moiety, and I have done that. So that's something which is disciplinary work. Or a pharmaceutics person will develop a tablet and or a capsule, means a formulation, or say solid lipid nanoparticles of a particular active, and he closes there by saying that yes, I have done this activity and that's what I was supposed to do. So that becomes a disciplinary activity, and you can of course extend this to all the other areas as well. What is multidisciplinary? Multidisciplinary is that you carry out the research project separately in each discipline, but in reference to a common theme. Again, to give you example of the first chemistry aspect that I was talking, synthesizing a particular molecule. If a particular decision is taken that this molecule should be tested in some animal model, so you approach a pharmacological department and they will do the testing. So what happens is you have a chemistry department has synthesized it, pharmacological department will be testing it, and then Sutics department may be kind of making a formulation of it. So this becomes that each individual department is working on the same project in a collaborative manner, and that's how they achieve the common goal. So this becomes a multidisciplinary. Then what is interdisciplinary? Interdisciplinary is generally referred to as when students carry out research projects in two or more disciplines in reference to a common theme. So again, giving you an example is, suppose the same example of chemistry, if I take that you are synthesizing a molecule and then you go into analytical lab and you analyze this by HPLC, or you carry out IR or NMR of that. So this could become interdisciplinary. Or like I have given you example here of a pharmacognosy where you have isolated some chemical compound and you actually carry out the isolation based on analysis. As you all know that isolation can be done on activity base or principle base. So if I know there is one particular alkaloid in my plant or in the selected plant moiety which I am extracting, and then I keep on analyzing it. So what happens is I am doing both the extraction and analysis, which could be interdisciplinary. So typically we all do both interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary work. Many times these terms are used interchangeably, the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. But the important aspect is that we should not be doing something what is disciplinary work. Either multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary is good, because that takes your project ahead, that takes your knowledge ahead. You will understand more aspects of related to your project, just beyond what is you have what is that you have done. Maybe in multidisciplinary area you have not taken the IR of your compound by yourself, but the fact that the IR was taken by somebody else and you look at the IR, the interpretation of IR will evolve or will have a better understanding at your end. So it is always expected, and I'm sure that everybody does this way of research, but I felt it is important to highlight this, and it is also important to highlight this aspect in the light of the event that we have, because the induction program, if you see, we have sessions on chemistry, we have sessions on analysis, we have the guided tours, and it may so happen that some students will feel that that's not something which is my area. So I want to just suggest that please don't think that way, because you will never know that in your research area you may require such thing, and any knowledge that is gained is always going to be useful. So my sincere request would be that you all attend all the sessions. You will yourself take what is relevant and what is important from you from those sessions. So it's very important to have multidisciplinary thing. And once you have a research culture that is set up, what happens, what comes next is the innovation. So next step after setting the research culture is to innovate. Project selected with the aim to become entrepreneur or create startup. So once you start having such research-based projects, culture, thought process, everybody will start thinking that, okay, what new I can do? How can I have work on something which will lead to a startup? And that's something very important. If you see in the United States and other big developed countries, 3 out of 5 big startups are coming from academia. So this is obviously means that they have such a research culture that the novel work that they are doing, the research culture is such that innovation happens at academia, leading to big startups. So we are not even talking of small startups. It's a big startup, which is 5 big startups, out of which 3 have been from academia. So it's a very good thing, the way to look forward for all of us to go in that direction. Questions are very important and answers will follow. So if we ask questions, then obviously we will get the answers. So I'll give you one example was that, everyone, most of us rather, will have fan in their houses. And we all use it as a very usual thing, and we don't think about it really. But there was a guy in IIT who thought about it that, on an average, so much, if you have 3 or 4 rooms, then every room likely to have fan going on. So much of energy is lost at that when we are using fans. So he thought of developing energy efficient motors for fan. And it resulted into big startup, because the motors he developed was consuming only 25% of energy. Now, of course, there is a cost element of it, but we look at the broader angle to it is that there is energy saving is one of the very important aspect, in today's world. So from that perspective, it's a big contribution that this student had. And you won't imagine that the thought that has started for the fan is being used in so many other areas, that his motors are being considered for washing machine and so many other places where these motors can be used. So this examples gives you, just a perspective that asking a question is more important, because I'm sure that we people are capable to find the answers, but it's the question which will take time. Then, of course, filing patents comes, and then you have institutional innovation committee like we have in VS College of Pharmacy, and these kind of systems will inculcate the culture of innovation. So that's all about the background with respect to research culture and my thoughts around it. Let's see now about the transition, which is very important aspect, from the perspective of all the students. How does it change? What does it change? Because our theme is transition from a graduate student to a research scholar. So let's look at what does change. So you have typically as an undergraduate a syllabus and you appear for exams. Obviously that will change now to a research project and a viva. You have to write thesis and so on, but there is nothing like syllabus and nothing like exam. It all changes. Then you were reading from either notes or specific book or books. Most likely that you will refer to not more than 1 or 2 books, which means that your span of literature, span of reading was very, very limited. Against this is you have to deal with literature such which is across globe. Everything that is published in your research domain becomes your literature, becomes your area, and you must know about it ideally, of course. Then you are dealing with multiple subjects, and now it becomes one focus area. You can imagine that you have studied so many plants in pharmacognosy, and that must be one entire book that you have looked into. Now you are looking at one plant, and not just one plant, but you are looking at either seed of that plant or leaves, and then you are looking at isolating, say, a flavonoid or alkaloid from that plant. So you're doing a lot of focus work on a one particular research area compared to a very broad-based study that you were doing as a graduate student. Of course, you were doing classroom study or studying at home or at library, and this gets replaced with experiments in lab. So this is another major shift that happens, because where you are doing classroom studying, your role was mainly listening to what is being discussed or what is being taught to you. Here you are involved actually in carrying out the experimentation. So there is a shift in the thought process. You have to be more attentive, obviously, in terms of doing the experiments, in terms of planning the experiments, in terms of measurements, observing the results. All those things will require a different mindset. And I'm sure that it's not difficult, but it's important to understand what things change. And of course, this list is also not exhaustive. I've just listed down a few things that came to my mind. This definition of a researcher, I've picked up from a definition of specialist. It says that a specialist is the one who knows more and more of less and less. And I'm sure that this is applicable to a researcher as well. The more you work in particular area, the more you get into that. If you get into a PhD, then you will focus even more deeper into a particular research project. The postdoctorate may focus even more. So as your specialization, as your studies increase, you will be focusing more and more about a particular topic and becoming a real expert in that area. Then let's look at the steps in the research work. Briefly, also, Dr. Chaudhary mentioned about some of the steps. So little on the similar line, I would also look at. I would like to look at the some other steps. Some steps which are more or less in line. First is the objective. Now, this is as I said, asking a question is very important. So objective of your project is very important. Identify your potential area of your research and define objective. And this is very important. Now, there are two ways of doing it. You want to do a research work in an area which you like, or you wanted to do a lot of research work in that area, which is a topic which is of your own liking. I'm sure that you will agree that doing in-depth work or doing research in an area which you like always will have better involvement of yourself, and that will really work very nicely to the overall objective achievement. So that's one of the idea of doing the research. That's one way of looking at your objective. Second is that you want to select a topic in which a particular lab in which you are going to be working. That lab has expertise, and that really will also be helpful, because when you're doing research, you will require a lot of hand holding, because the master students, when they go from graduation to research straight away, There are a lot of things that they have to do independently now, for which they were taught, in the practicals, the teachers were teaching them how to do it. Now you have to do a lot of things by yourself. And it could be a very simple TLC method development during a chemical reaction. But even that part, you wouldn't have done so much independently, and you need a lot of expertise. So if you are working on on a research topic in which your lab has already done significant work, then there are students, there are seniors who are experts and who are going to handhold you for that, doing your own work, that you will be able to take it ahead. So this is something which is very useful. And also you can remember that for every small things, you will not be able to go to your guide, and it's not desirable. So what it means is that you will be ending up asking a lot of small questions to your colleagues and extending or working on the similar principles as they have worked makes your job really easy. So this is the second way. And if you're able to merge both, that you're working in an area which is liking of yours, as well as in which the lab also has the expertise, then obviously it's going to work really well for you. Then obviously second and very important step comes is the literature search. And there is no substitute. I mean, this is a must. And a thorough literature search is a must. So when I interact with any student, I always tell them that when you have done a research work, literature, and if I do such a literature on the same topic, and I spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes on that search when I am doing it, I should not be finding any article which is relevant, which you have not unearthed. This is the target that I always give all the research students, that you have to be very thorough with literature, because not only it helps you to get a direction, not only it helps you to set up your experiments, but it helps you to take up a meaningful research, and it avoids failures. As I was saying, that knowing the failures is also very important, so that you don't take those those directions. So literature search, there is no substitute, no compromise, absolutely whatsoever. Plan an experiment. Of course, once you have the objective literature done, then you will plan how you want to conduct the experiments, and you will actually carry out the experiments based on that. Then observe and analyze the things. Observation again is very, very important. Minutest observation must be recorded and made. Many times what happens is the students will feel that, oh, okay, I want to go home today early. I'll ask my friend to observe on my behalf. Sometimes in an emergency, you might do it, but it's not the good way of doing research, because what happens is that when you observe, you have such a whole background of the entire project that you will look at it from a particular perspective. Nobody else can substitute that perspective. And observation obviously is very critical. There's so many examples of serendipity that is happening, how penicillin was searched, or how the post-its were developed, and so on. There are so many examples which were purely because of the observation. So observation and analysis or data interpretation is the next step. Revisit and revalidate. I think Dr. Chaudhary again mentioned about this, that you need to revisit your data. If needed, you have to revalidate, means repeat those experiments once again completely, not just do repeat measurements, but repeat completely from the start, and ensure that you get some similar observations. That is what is called as the validation of the results. You must do that. And of course, the documentation. Documentation has to be done very properly. And I would recommend that, like industry, where you have lab notebook, practice of writing experiments or data in lab notebook, each of the research student in academia also should have such a lab notebook, which is dated and signed, and all the experiments are recorded, data is captured, and this is very, very important even from the authenticity perspective. Quality of research, I think some of the points will be overlapping with what Dr. Chaudhary said, but some of the points will be different from a different perspective. As I was saying, develop a knowledge domain expertise. So this is something very important, because when I say that you have to have a great literature search done, what it does is that it develops you as a subject matter expert. Nobody, including your senior or including to certain extent, your peers will not know more than you in that that subject matter or that topic. And this is what should be your level of research, level of literature search, and so on. Hard work, sincerity, and patience, there is no substitute for any of this. The seek and take help. Now, another thing, as I was mentioning, that research work cannot be done by alone. You as an individual, you have to seek help, whether it's a help of your senior, it could be a help of taking help of a lab attendant, or with whom you've learned certain things during your bachelor's studies, setting up an instrument, setting up a tablet press, or so on, or collaborate with other institutions. So seeking and taking help is a very important. Don't feel shy about this. You will take help, and people will help you. And the same way, when you reach to a stage when you can help others, you will also help. So this is a very important aspect of research that you must consider. Observation and time management skill, I have told about it. And last but most important thing, I would say, is the ownership of the projects. Many times when I interact with the students and I ask about the objective of the research topic, and when I ask them a couple of more questions, they are not able to answer. And what they will say is, my guide has given me the topic. So there everything ends, because you have left the ownership of the project. Maybe your supervisor has given the topic, but nobody stopped you from owning it. Nobody stopped you from doing literature on it. Nobody stopped you from questioning about it. Now, and when you are doing your project, you will obviously, with that ownership, be able to achieve much more. So ownership of a project is a prime requisite, I would say, for any research student, that this is my project. I know everything about this topic, and I want to achieve this goal. So this is all, and I will take all necessary help to achieve this goal or achieve my objective. So all these things will lead to a real good success, or even if there is a failure, it will be a meaningful failure. So ownership, I think, is the one which I want each one of you to have this on your project. Now, what are the things to avoid? Insufficient literature, I've said enough. Lack of understanding about project as a whole. This is also very important. What happens is, many times you do project in stages, but you must know where you are ending. So as a whole, what is going to be your project? Many times students do say that the project change, in between. The course of project change in between. Yes, that does happen, but you still have overall understanding of the project. So this is something is what, again, very important. Lack of knowledge of excipient, solvents, catalyst used in the formulation or a synthesis or an extraction process. What and why? If you ask a person that why did you use microcrystalline cellulose in your formulation, and he cannot answer that, then I would say that he has not done a good research work. A similar way, when you are extracting alkaloid and you have used the acetone for extraction, I would like to know whether that acetone, in that acetone that you have used, whether the alkaloid was soluble or not. All these kind of basic things you cannot miss on during your research. Lack of discipline is understand. Ownership, we have discussed. What is the end of the project? This is also we discussed. And lack of clarity with respect to plan of action. Now, this is something which I always talk about, that what steps you are taking. I give you example of the solvents that we are using in, let's say, extraction. And it cannot be that somebody has told you to take any particular solvent and you just go about using it. But you should know why you are doing, and is there a subsequent use of that solvent in the in your is there a relation of it? So this kind of clarity is very important. So these are the things I would like you all to avoid and take care of. So the solution, of course, research takes time, so you have to have patience and you have to do hard work. Start of research with I cannot, I mean, enough emphasize on literature, so I'll always say read and keep reading it. Set specific goal for yourself for with respect to deliverables, and then don't miss on the fun part. I mean, all this that we are talking about, the hard work, sincerity, and all that thing doesn't mean that you will be doing 24/7 your research work. So it has to be a very good healthy balance between fun, study, and research, and I'm sure that you all can achieve it. So that's what I wanted to discuss with respect to the students, and what is the importance of literature search or various steps associated with the research. Let's look at some of the examples of projects. I've taken one example of novel drug delivery system project. So now when you do this novel drug delivery system project, the core focus is novel drug delivery system. So a lot of people today wants to work on either SLNs or liposomes. So then your core focus is on liposome. Now liposome is also, the people will say it's a old concept. I want to work targeted liposomes. I want to work on the stealth liposomes or liposomes with the longer actions and so on. So they want to further add some dimension to just one to this liposome. So we must understand that we are working on a particular new aspect in the delivery system. My focus is that then I cannot complicate it with the API. So the selection of API, it should be relevant, but it should not complicate the delivery system. Now, to give you an example is that if I work on a delivery system, which is again the liposome, so of course I have to select an active which is suitable for this liposomal delivery. But do I select an active which is a thermosensitive and degrades very rapidly with moisture? Then what happens is the entire objective of developing a new delivery system will be lost, because that the stability of active puts lot of restriction. So when I'm working on delivery system, my focus will be on delivery system, and the API will be in line with the delivery system, but it should not be complicating it. Now, when do I use a complicated active then? Now, if I was to use a delivery system which is already established in my lab, could be a liposomal, it's a pegylated one, or it is with a conjugated one. All the aspects of this liposomal development is established in the lab. But the API which requires liposomes is challenging. When I have such a challenge or such a problem, then I will my focus rather would change from delivery system to API, which is to be delivered with that delivery system. Now, broader outlook would be that, more molecules in the future, that to gain experience on the technology, thorough characterization, and so on. So this is from the overall perspective. What is the aim? Aim will be to become expert at the technology. And the multidisciplinary part, if you look at it, there is obviously pharmaceutics part, analytical part, and if you're going to conjugate your liposomes, then there will be chemistry part also. So this is going to give you a multidisciplinary research work, and this is the one example of how do you select your research project, and we'll take a couple of more examples in this slide. Now, if you take a combination of actives in the delivery again, so what is my focus? Focus is combination. What I'm trying to prove that two actives when used together, they will provide synergistic effect in terms of therapy. That means you have a better outcome, therapeutic outcome. Now, when I want to do that, do I want to deliver them in a sustained release form from the day one? May not be, because what I'm trying to prove right now is, that both these active work synergistically. Okay, I might start with sustained release only if I know that one of the active does require sustained release, and there is already enough work done on the sustained release. Then yes, I can use such combination. To give you example, is metformin combinations are there, metformin, preoglitazone, and so on. So many combinations of metformin are there. Now, when metformin combinations initially started, they were working with immediate release, but there was already metformin sustained release product in the market. So when the combinations were developed, obviously people say that it's an advantage to have metformin sustained release. But of course, you must understand the pharmacokinetics of both the actives. So there is something which obviously a background search has to be done. But the point I am trying to make is that you must focus on the core activity, what you are looking at, core research target, or what is the core objective. So in this case, the project target is what? It's a simple formulation with proof of concept study. I will not avoid complicating by putting actives into NDDS for the first time. So there was no sustained release of metformin, but I will say that metformin sustained release plus pioglitazone in the combination, and pioglitazone will be immediate release. That kind of combination I would like to avoid when my target is synergistic combination. And also particularly I would like to avoid such things with master students when you have real limitation in terms of the time. PhD students can think about such projects because you have time at their disposal in terms of the research project duration. So that is possible. For masters, I would say that it's very important that you are focused with respect to your research project. And again, you will have the multidisciplinary aspect is pharmaceutics, analytics, pharmacokinetics, and maybe even pharmacology, where you are doing the combination, studying the effect of combination of actives pharmacologically. So there are all different disciplines that could come into play. The third case study is novel herbal monoactive formulation. Now here, what is my focus? My core focus is the herb and its part that is used in this study, and why I am selecting this part. And if I am doing some isolation, then I must concentrate on getting the component or the constituent in the purest form with the desired activity and other aspects. So I must be focusing my work on the really isolation part and the activity part, and not necessarily again on the delivery part. So I would really not bother about what is the dosage form that I am going to take, unless I can even go with the simple capsule formulation to begin with. So key is which part of the plant I am using, I am isolating which chemical constituent, and then target is use appropriate extract, and then use formulation along with some activity determination. So it's this focus area. What is my multidisciplinary research work here could be pharmacognosy, chemistry, and analysis. Friends, you will always notice that most of this research project will have analytical component, and therefore, by default, the research work becomes multidisciplinary because analysis is needed at each and every stage, whether you are doing a Sutics research project or a chemistry research project or even pharmacognosy research projects. Analytics is very important, and there are some sessions in this induction program which are related to analytical. There are virtual demos and also lab tours. I'm sure that you will immensely benefit from that. So let's go to last couple of slides. What are my suggestions? The project has to be in relay, that is in line with the expertise in the lab, and also multidisciplinary. Focus on the core research project. You must identify what is your area of research that you want to focus on, and collaborate extensively, internal as well as external. Internal meaning within your lab, within your institute. External means outside your institute. You may not have NMR in your lab, so that doesn't mean that you will not do NMR, because if you're doing isolation, NMR will be required as for characterization, for structural elucidation. So you will have to collaborate externally and get that NMR done. Openness in discussion, I think I have told enough. Innovate and entrepreneurship, I have told about this. And very important is the industry relevance and commercialization. So I'll take a couple of minutes on this, is that industrial relevance of a project is very important. There are two types of research projects. One research project is the one which takes the technology ahead and may not have an immediate industry relevance, but those projects are really, really very important. Again, I'm giving you example of solid lipid nanoparticles. Solid lipid nanoparticles based pharmaceutical formulations are not many, but it is very important because it does give some specific advantage when you consider a particular active moiety. So that means that that kind of research work is very important. There is another aspect of the research work which is industry related, industry relevance related, which means that you are working on some tablets, capsules which are of immediate relevance to industry. But one very important thing you must consider that when you are working at even solid lipid nanoparticles, your focus still should be to partner it out eventually with an industry. Because if you are ending up with some amazing results in terms of efficacy, in terms of duration of action, in terms of therapeutic activity, patient compliance, and so on, obviously industry will pick up. So eventually the industrial relevance of your research topic and your work must be given enough importance in your research work. So you may do you may do a research work which is research work which is at a higher end, may not have immediate industry relevance, or it is immediate industry relevance. The end goal obviously is to commercialize, because if you can't commercialize a product, then the whole research work will not reach to the mankind or the patient and will not serve its eventual purpose. So the industry relevance is very important. And that brings me to the last slide that I have here. And I want to lay a lot of importance onto this. This is very important from a US FDA or any regulatory, guideline perspective, or a manufacturing facility which is marketing or manufacturing for products for this US or Europe or any other markets. What they call is this principle as Alcoa principle. And I want each one of you to follow this principle in your research. Alcoa stands for A, that is attributable. That means it should be attributed to a person who is generating the data. Very important, you can't be taking the data of somebody else. It should be your data. Legible, which means that you have documented in a way that it is, you are able to retrieve it. You can show it to, if needed. Contemporaneous is means that the data should be recorded right at the time when the work was performed, which means that you are taking UV reading. Then try not to document in a piece of paper and then transfer it. As I said, you follow concept of lab notebooks and you record your UV results in those lab notebooks. When you go to industry, you will see that it's not just recording needed, there the printouts also needed. However, that kind of facility may not be available, but certainly you can record it at the same time in your lab notebook when the data is generated. Original, of course, it has to be your original research work, accurate, free from errors, complete, truthful, and reflective of its observation. So these are very, very important aspects. And, even when I was hearing, some of the sessions by Ministry of Health, and there also they have laid, emphasis on research which is original. Because there have been some instances, some bad name that has we got for our country, where the data published was having some challenges. So it's very important that we follow the right research principles, we follow our conscience, and we don't get into any kind of wrong practices. So with that, I think I want to close by saying that for research, in research, if you can believe it, the mind can surely achieve it. And with that, happy learning for the induction program. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your elaborative talk. Your speech is indeed motivating for all of us. To summarize Sir's session, he highlighted that focused research, thoughtful research, and well-literated research are the basic prerequisite things that the student should follow. Also, the differentiation that Sir has shown regarding disciplinary, multidisciplinary, and interdisciplinary work will surely help the students while designing their project. Also, Sir has motivated students to keep on working till it reaches to the innovation. And yes, on the other side, you will have lot many opportunities to grab. Also, the changes that Sir has mentioned that the students are facing while going through this transition, I'm sure each and every word that Sir has explained, the student must be walking in those particular shoes, and I'm sure, Sir, it will help them a lot. The last point which I would mention here, which I feel all the faculties would rather feel very good about it, and I'm sure student must have taken a note, that everyone should learn to become independent in terms of planning the experiment. And yes, if students follow this, they will definitely get real satisfaction of doing the research, and they will be ready to accept the ownership of their project as well. So with this, Sir, I will really thank you. Thanks a lot from the entire, on behalf of team and from all the participants as well. I will ask Sandeep sir to kindly take it over for the question answer sessions.
Yeah, thank you, Sonali madam. So I am really thankful to Dr. Anil sir. This is really wonderful session. So I was just monitoring chat box and I've collected some questions related to our discussion. And I am sure whatever the audience are there, maybe especially the research students, they got answer of why, what, and how. Whatever the title you used in during a presentation,
Yes.
key research, why, what, and how, all the answers they got. So first question I would like to take, sir, one of a student, Mr. Dhaval. Sir, in what way we can find the problem statement for research and what will be the appropriate approach?
Uh, this is a very broad kind of question, Dhaval. But as I was mentioning, is there are two ways. One is that you need to look at what is the area of interest for you, and then obviously you look at the problems around as well. Problems could be in terms of delivery systems or in particular therapeutic areas. Like when there can be something very basic as well, that you can talk to some doctors and the doctors can help you with this, that there are patients having this kind of complaints in terms of taking it 3 times a day, 4 times a day, you want to convert it into once a day, or you feel that there is no treatment for a particular disease and you want to select your work in that area. So from that, that's a very broad way, but there will be some screens that you will have to use, and it could be either you could start either from your own interest and the interest of the faculty with whom you are going to do your research work, and then try to go deeper and with that in that area and try to see what advancement you can do in that particular area. So that's how you could go about finding it. A research topic. You could use a kind of funnel approach where you will have a lot of things being considered, and from as I was saying, the current therapeutic requirements, need in terms of therapy, your own interests, your research supervisor's interests, work done in that area, and what are the gaps in that area. So these kind of things will help you identify a proper research topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Then another question from one of our research students, sir, by Gunajit. How much literature to be reviewed in a research and any specific range for that?
Rajit, I think there is no limit to what level of literature search you should do. You should keep doing literature search, even when your project has started. So really, there is no end to it. But then, obviously, it has to be a kind of a focus literature search. Means that you have to understand that this is the area in which you are going to work, And I would strongly feel that further you should narrow down in that particular topic as your research area, and then do complete literature in that area. Absolutely no doubt that you are going, whatever you are going to work on it, that must be known. Secondly, you all must know that you will not be the only person working on that area. If you have identified that area, if your guide has identified that area, there are many other people parallelly working on it and parallelly publishing also. There may be something which is already worked on and published, but submitted but not published in the journal. So what happens is that you have to keep on updating your literature. So therefore, being specific in literature search is very important. As far as your overall broad area of research is concerned, you must understand that research area very well and everything about your research objective or the research project.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Now, one couple of questions, sir, just by considering time constraint. What it will take to make academic research enriching enough so that we don't have to learn on the job? This is a genuine question from student.
See, actually, I wanted to take one more slide with respect to, similarities or what are the learnings from academic research. So, see, one thing is very important that though you may do a research work which may not be directly related to, industry, what you do, in 8 months or 12 months is you train yourself in a process, and that process is very important. You are given a problem. How do you solve that problem? How do you go about doing it? How do you do literature search? How do you define your problem in view of or in light of the literature work that you have done? How do you plan your work? How do you document it? All these steps are really, really very important. So you learn all these things during your research work in academics, may or may not be relevant to industry, but the process will always be with you. And when you go to industry, it becomes very easy to adapt as per the industry norms. So this is one very important advantage. Second thing, of course, also is that you still have to keep reading about what is happening in the industry as well and keep yourself updated. So that can also help. But I feel that, doing a research work in a very systematic manner itself is a big gain to go into industry. If you follow the Alcoa principle and talk about it when you are being interviewed, industry people are going to very much like it because that's what they wanted. So some practices that you learn are the ones which you carry into industry.
Yeah, very well, sir. Now, sir, last question by Ruchira. Sure. Maybe you have just focused about multidisciplinary approach of research. So obviously the questions comes in the mind of students. What about the interest change if anyone have 2 or 3 master degrees?
No, I didn't get. What about what change?
What about the interest, area of interest of research? Change. Yes, yes. If anyone have 2 or 3 specializations.
Now 2 or 3 specialization, I'm not sure what you are referring to 2 or 3 specialization, but what really I meant was that when we talk of multidisciplinary really is that you work across different disciplines with a common goal. So your interest remains common and you work across different disciplines. So that is what is referred to as interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary. However, if you are talking of 3 different areas of research, and you are saying that what about your interest? Then obviously you are not necessarily working in your in a particular area, but you are developing that expertise. So if you are doing a master's, or I don't know how actually you can do this, but if you're doing specialization in, say, analytical as well as in formulation or analytical and synthesis, then obviously it enriches your domain expertise. So from that perspective, you are better prepared to take on any kind of industry research as well. So that is going to help. Obviously, the goals or the targets in both the areas may not match, because if they match, if you work on a particular chemical moiety in the synthesis and you do analysis of that same moiety, then obviously it becomes a multidisciplinary and not 2-3 different research areas.
Yes, very well, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful session. Yeah, if there any more questions are there, so I request participants to just drop in a chat box, and very soon we will share with maybe Anil sir on through email ID.
Thank you so much again, VS College for and Supriya Madam in particular for inviting me. And I think it has been a real pleasure, being a keynote speaker here. I hope I was able to convey some of the thoughts that I have with respect to the research culture and how the transition happens for the students and how they can select the research projects. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah. So dear participant, now moving towards our further program, we will take now 10 minutes break, and maybe sharp at 4 o'clock we will gather over here again. At a 4 o'clock, very interesting session is there. That is a virtual tour to sophisticated instruments for research. So I request all the audience to be here on our college YouTube channel at 4 p.m. Over to Sonali, madam.
So let's take a break and let us meet here on the same platform at 4 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome back after a short break. We have our next resource person, Mr. Amrish Dave. He is present here along with his associate, Mr. Sultan Singh. Mr. Amrish Dave is head of the division, Analytical and Synthetic Chemistry, Anton Par, India Private Limited. He is currently working as a head of division, Analytical and Synthetic Chemistry with Anton Par, India Private Limited. He has over 24 years of experience in the areas of product handling, sales, and marketing. He has worked upon a wide portfolio of technologies, including sample preparation and synthesis, liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy, and other analytical techniques. I request Sir to guide our audience. I request participants to kindly please stay tuned. I request dear participants to please be connected. There is some network issue and we are trying to resolve it soon. Thank you. Hello everyone. I would take this opportunity to brief you all as we are receiving many queries. As in, there are few participants which we could figure out that they have not registered yet, but they are interested to join in for this session. So, by the time, let me make a few announcements and just to brief them about this particular idea about this particular session. This particular session is has commenced from today, and it will be there with you all till 21st of August 2020. We will have the time of the session 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and it is with full of the sessions required in the it is with full of the sessions covering all the fields of your pharmaceutics, pharmacognosy, pharmaceutical analysis, and even the ecology. So the overall idea is the student should get the overall framework of all these different subject areas that they are going to deal with while performing their multidisciplinary project work. The registration link we will give you in our comment box, and the same would be available at the end in the description box of our YouTube. We request you, after joining the registration link and filling out the Google form, kindly join the Telegram group so that you will get all the posts regarding this particular induction program.
Can you see me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a big file. I just spoke to Dr. Mushtaq and I'm just trying to send that file to him for the
Okay.
presentation. Yeah. All right.
Dear participants, we have Amrish Davesar with us for your next session. So kindly please be tuned with us to have one more such wonderful speech from him.
Are we already live?
Amrish Davesar has joined us.
A very good
And
evening.
yes, yeah, good, yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Uh, So Amrit sir is from Anton Far India Limited. He is the head of the division Analytical and Synthetic Chemistry, and he has over 24 years of experience in the area of product handling, sales, and marketing. Sir has worked upon a wide portfolio of technologies, including sample preparation and synthesis, liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy, and the other analytical techniques. So I request Sir to address our wonderful audience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonali. Very warm good evening, everyone. As Dr. Sonali introduced me, my name is Amrish Dave, and I work for Antenpar India Private Limited as the head of division for the analytical and synthetic chemistry. Before I start with today's topic, I would like to take this opportunity and congratulate VES College of Pharmacy for arranging such a wonderful session. And this is, I'm sure, going to be very helpful to all the students who are doing their research. And before me, there were two sessions which were also quite informative. And I'm sure you all have learned a lot of things about how to do research and what are the uh, things that we should follow while doing the research. So today's my topic is mainly about doing the research, the very fundamental of the research, that is synthesis. So all of us have been working with these various chemicals, and we are doing various kind of reactions to synthesize new products. Currently, the most popular thing in the news is the production or the synthesis of the new vaccine, and we all are desperately waiting that instead of taking years, these vaccines should be available as early as possible. So today's topic would be like how to enhance the speed of the research of the synthesis, things which otherwise we take hours or maybe days, how these reactions we can complete with better yield and faster reaction speeds and a higher throughput by using the modern day techniques. We were having some issues, some technical glitches. So I have just sent a file of my presentation to Dr. Anand, and I think as soon as he receives the file, he will be playing this presentation so that I can then narrate these slides. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you could just pose them and we can answer those questions. And my session will be followed by my colleague. His name is Sultan Singh. So we also are going to take this advantage, or rather, I would say, we will try to take the advantage of the technology, and we will be arranging a virtual demonstration of one of the instruments which can help you in your research work by expediting your reactions. So that will be followed by my colleague Sultan Singh. Well, I am sitting right now at my office in Mumbai in Thane. My colleague is in Gurgaon office, and he will be doing this live demonstration virtually with the instrument. Let us just hope that we don't have the same problem of connectivity that unfortunately I had to encounter, so that we all can see this presentation or rather live demonstration of the instrument. So Dr. Sonali, please let me know once you have received the file and we can start with the presentation.
Sir, by the time they are trying with the PPTs which you have sent it to them, can I request you to just brief us maybe about your company so that all the students and
Yeah,
even the
sure.
faculties who all are here will be able to have some connect if they are wish to.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I work for Antenpar India Private Limited, which is basically a 100% owned subsidiary of Antenpar GmbH from Austria. So this is like the neighboring country of Germany. And our factories, our headquarters are based out of the city of Graz, which is about a 2 hours drive from Vienna. And I am proud to say that this is almost a 100 years old company, very heavily into technology. This company was founded way back in 1922, and next 2 years we will be completing and celebrating our 100th year of existence. We have our manufacturing facilities spread across the world. So we have our manufacturing facilities in Austria, which is our headquarters. We have in Germany, in Switzerland, and also in United States of America. And globally, we have more than 30 subsidiaries with direct operation. And the countries where we are not directly represented, we have more than 60 distribution partners. So that's how we cover the globe. And overall, we manufacture more than 170 different types of solutions to cater to wide variety of application requirements, including pharma, including food, petroleum, uh, environmental, metals and alloys, mining, you name it, and we have the solution for those kind of applications. I look after the analytical and synthetic chemistry group at Antenpar India, which basically involves the microwave synthesis and microwave digestion systems. Today's topic is on the synthesis applications, and the microwave digestion is used for the acid digestion for the heavy metal analysis with ICP and ICP-MS, which also for past couple of years is quite in use with pharma industry because of the new implementation of USP 232 and 233 regulations. Apart from the microwave synthesizers and digestion, we also have digital polarimeters, we have digital refractometers, density meters, we have viscometers, we also have rheometers. Then we also have small angle X-ray scattering instrument. We have particle sizer to measure the particles up to nanometers. So this is the wide portfolio. We also have a dedicated big portfolio to cater the requirements of petroleum industry. And of course, we have dedicated teams for managing these product lines at Antenpar India, dedicated product teams, dedicated sales teams, and also dedicated service teams. Antenpar India has a total 4 application labs. So we also provide you with our application support. So we have one application lab in Gurgaon, we have one application lab in Thane, one in Bangalore, and one in Hyderabad. And we have total 9 offices all over India, and they all are full-fledged sales and service offices. So I believe you have been able to download the presentation.
Sir, we have downloaded the presentation, and just give us a second, sir will share it for you.
Oh, perfect. I can see Antenpar slide right now on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. I think you can see the PPT now. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I can see the PPT. So let's move
Yeah.
on to the first slide.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. You can continue now.
Yeah, all right. So this is basically just what I just briefly explained about Antenpar as a company. So we are headquartered in the city of Graz in Austria. And the key highlight of this company is that this company is not listed on any stock exchange. Rather, it is owned by a charitable Santner Foundation. So the advantage to us is that we do not have to take out the profits from the company and pay to the shareholders. This allows us to reinvest almost 20% of our turnover back into developing new products and technology. So if you have been following Antenpar over the last 5-6 years, you would realize that we have introduced a huge number of new products and new technologies to meet the application requirements across the different industries. As I said, we have total 8 producing subsidiaries. So these are the manufacturing facilities spread across the globe. We have our manufacturing facility in Austria, in Germany, in Switzerland, and also in the Americas. And we are represented globally by 31 sales subsidiaries. India was the 12th sales subsidiary of Antenpar GmbH. And the countries where we are not directly present, we are represented by our distribution partners. So we have 60 distribution partners. And all in all, we have total 170 different measurement solution to provide application requirements of various industries. We could move on to the next slide, please. And the next. All right. So agenda for today's presentation will be the basics of microwave synthesis. I would like to, in fact, just add that this would be the basics of microwave and closed vessel synthesis. Because just by using microwave, we cannot take the real advantage. The closed vessel, in addition to the microwave, really will provide us with the required results. The next point we will be discussing about what are the different challenges that usually we face and what are the available solutions in the market today. So these are the available solutions, not just with Antenpar, but typically what kind of solutions that one can look at for different application requirements. And a brief introduction, because of course I didn't want to keep this presentation on the Antenpar instrumentation. However, many of you might not be aware about how the instrument looks like. So maybe we will just go through small few slides where we have demonstrated, or there are some pictures of the available instrument with Antenpar and different techniques. And of course, we will end the session with the participants query. And before that, we will also be having a live demonstration, virtual demonstration of our instrument. Probably if the link works, then my colleague at our Gurgaon lab, his name is Sultan Singh, he will be demonstrating the instrument also. And of course, by end of the session, we will take the participants' queries. If the time will not be permitting us to answer all the queries, probably we will take the questions and we will then respond to those questions later. All right, so let us start. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So we all have been working with some kind of reaction in our lab, and these reactions takes anywhere between few hours to maybe few days as well. So how do we accelerate these chemical reactions? Simple: heat. And if we can heat to even higher temperature, all the more better. Next slide. So for all the reactions that depend on temperature, there is a basic law, that is Arrhenius law, which states that every 10-degree increase in temperature would result in 2 times faster reaction, or acceleration of the reaction speed by 2 times. So simply put, if we see, can we just click on the next? Yeah. So if there is a, next please. So if there is a reaction which is taking about 8 hours at 80 degrees centigrade, and we all know that ethanol has a boiling point of around 78 degrees centigrade. So that is the maximum temperature we can work with when we are working with ethanol in a round bottom flask. Can we just click on the next, next. Yeah. All right. So as you can see, if from 80 degrees I go to 90 degrees centigrade, the same reaction which takes about 8 hours can be completed within 4 hours. At 100, it gets over within 2 hours, so on and so forth. If I could go to 160 degrees centigrade. So the same reaction, which at the 80 degrees centigrade takes about 8 hours, is completed within 2 minutes. So how is that possible? Because no matter what we do, if we are taking a round bottom flask and we start to heat ethanol, let's say, no matter what is the temperature we have set of our heating plate, it will always start boiling at around 80 degrees centigrade. So we can never reach a temperature above that. So, but that is possible. Can we please click? Yeah, click, click. One more click. So at 80 degrees, we are working with atmospheric pressure. So obviously at atmospheric pressure, the boiling point of ethanol is 80 degrees centigrade. However, if we could create a pressure of about 4.5 bar, we could take this boiling point of ethanol to 120 degrees, and at 12 bar, the boiling point of ethanol becomes 160 degrees centigrade. How do we achieve that? By using closed vessel. So when you are using closed vessel, at 80 degrees, ethanol starts to boil, and these vapors start to generate. But because we are using closed vessel, the vapors cannot escape, and the vapors will then produce vapor pressure. And as we go higher and higher, the vapor pressure will keep on increasing and take the boiling point to higher temperatures. This is something that we all have been doing almost every single day in our kitchen. Pressure cooker, when we cook rice with open vessel, it takes about 10, 15, 20 minutes to cook. But when we are using pressure cooker, because water starts to boil at 100 degrees centigrade and it creates steam, and with pressure cooker, we are creating, or we are enclosing the steam within the cooker, and this creates higher vapor pressure, which takes the boiling point of the water to a higher temperature, and we are able to cook the rice much faster. Please click next. So as you can see, higher the temperature and pressure, we can reduce the time. Yeah, go to the next slide. This is the typical setup of the conventional reactions that we perform. So we have at the bottom the heating plate or hot plate. We have oil bath or water bath, in which we dip thermometer to monitor the temperature. We take the round bottom flask and we take our reaction in the round bottom flask. And in order to preserve or avoid any losses of the solvents, we use a condenser so that the solvent fumes get condensed and they are replenished back into the round bottom flask. However, remember that we are working with an open vessel system. Click next. And the temperature is always limited as per the boiling point of the solvent that we are using. So if you're using ethanol as the solvent, then no matter what temperature we have set with the hot plate, the temperature inside the round bottom flask will always be around 80 degrees centigrade. So temperature is always limited due to the boiling point of this solvent that we are using. However, click next. So closed vessel can provide us with the highest efficiency. Click, click, click. So as you can see from this graph, the gray line is basically, or the graph is basically what we can achieve with an open vessel setup. So which is limited to the boiling point of the solvent that we are using at atmospheric pressure. And when we are using a closed vessel system, we can follow this red graph and we can go to much higher temperature. And what is the maximum temperature that we can achieve with a closed vessel system will depend on what is the maximum pressure that this vessel can work at. So higher the pressure capacity of the vessel, higher the temperature we can go to. Next, please. If you see how does the heating work with conventional technique? So what do you see is we have the hot plate, which produces the heat, which is then transferred to the oil bath or water bath, which in turn will transfer the heat to our round bottom flask or the reaction vessel. So in the conventional heating, the heating happens because of the convection and the heat is transferred very slowly and it is not a very efficient way. And if we take the IR image of this setup that you can see on the right side, this image of a vessel. So you will see that the temperature of the vessel is at the higher temperature, whereas the actual reaction temperature is possibly much lower than what the vessel temperature is. As compared to the conventional heating, click next. If you see, when we are using with the microwave setup, then what happens is we use vessels that are made of the material that is transparent to microwaves. So typically we use borosilicate glass, or we use quartz vessels, or we use PTFE, TFM vessels. And these materials, they are transparent to microwaves. So microwaves will not interact with the vessel and heat the vessel. Rather, they will pass through these vessel body and they will directly interact with the solvent or the reagents. So the solvent and the reagents will absorb this microwave energy and they will get heated up. So by this, we are generating the in-core direct heating. Yeah, as you can see in this animation, so we are directly heating the reaction mixture. And if we take an IR image of the vessel, then this is what we see, that our reaction mixture is actually at the higher temperature rather than the walls of the vessel. And that is what we want. So with microwave heating, the temperature are usually inverted. So it's a reaction mixture which is at higher temperature and not the vessel. Next, please. So how does microwave work actually? Next. So there are two requirements for microwaves to work. One is either the reagents that we are using, they should have dipolar rotation, which means these reagents should be polar in nature. Or the second way is by ionic conduction. So what happens is, in case of the dipolar rotation, when we subject our reagents to microwave energy, then microwave energy, as we know, is an electromagnetic energy, which is basically sinusoidal waves. So these molecules, they start or they try to align themselves with the microwaves. And in doing so, they will have internal friction. And this friction generates instant heat. Next, please. So as the slide says, that the dipole will try to align themselves with microwave energy, and they have rotation, and because of which there is a friction between the molecules, which generate instant heat. How fast these reagents will get heated up under microwave is totally dependent on the dipole moment. Simply put, the effectiveness is a function of the dipole moment, which means higher the polarity, faster will be heating. So if I'm using a solvent which has a high polarity, for example, some glycols or ethylene glycol kind of a reagent, then because of very high polar nature, they will absorb microwaves very fast and they can reach a higher temperature very, very fast. As against that, if at the other end, we have toluene, for example, which is not a polar solvent. So it will have very small movement of the molecules, and this will result in slow heating of the reagents. As against this, in case of ionic conduction, click please. Again, in ionic conduction also, we have the ion molecules which are present in the form of ions, and these ions, they again try to align themselves with microwaves, and in doing so, they will have friction, and this will result in generation of instant heat. In case of ionic conduction, the effectiveness is not dependent on, like polarity or dipole rotation on the polarity, but on the concentration. Higher the amount of these ionic molecules inside the reagents, faster will be heating. Next, please. In either cases, what we are able to achieve is we are able to achieve direct in-core heating. So the heat is generated from within the reaction, and the interaction of the microwaves is determined by what we call as loss tangent. Simply put, loss tangent means the measurement of conversion of electromagnetic energy into heat, or in a layman's language like me, it means higher the time delta or higher the loss tangent, better it will be heated with microwaves. Next slide. This is an example of how fast we can heat when we are taking water. So as you can see, the first graph at a lower temperature, this is just heating of the water, and reaching 130 degrees centigrade, it takes say about 5 minutes time. We add a pinch of salt, which is NaCl, and as you can see the yellow graph, we can reach about 170 degrees centigrade in the same time. You go on increasing the concentration of this salt in the water, and as you can see, we can reach higher and higher temperature in shorter and shorter time, which means we can increase the speed at which we can heat these reagents. Rest all the conditions remain same. Next, please. So as we discussed, or one of the statement made by me is that microwave is one of the part of the electromagnetic energy. So there is the part of that electromagnetic spectrum. Does that mean that microwaves have any magic on the reaction? We all know that UV radiation can definitely alter the way a reaction progresses. This is again because of the high intensity or high energy of the UV radiation. So it can actually cleave the bonds of our chemical structure. As against this, if we talk about microwaves, what does it do? Next, please. So if you can, as you can see in the next slide, this is the energy spectrum, and you see on the left side, which is basically the high energy part of the spectrum, we have gamma rays, X-rays, UV radiation visible, and IR radiation, and microwaves come on the right hand side. So as you can see from this image, the microwaves have very, very feeble energy. Microwaves on their own cannot cleave bonds. They cannot break hydrogen bonds also. So there is no way that a microwave can alter a reaction by cleaving the bonds. The only thing that microwave does is it induces heating, or it induces vibration at molecular level, which generates instant heat. And that's all microwave does. So microwave, if I were to say, simply put, are nothing but heating tools. So that's all about microwaves. But because we are doing chemical reactions, we are working with hazardous chemicals, we are going to high temperature, high pressure. So safety becomes one of the most critical aspects when working with microwaves. That's the reason I would not recommend that you start using your domestic microwave for reactions, because it doesn't have any safety feature in place. Next, please. Next slide. So as you can see, this slide talks about the energy levels, and on the right side you have the basic chemical bonds and the required bond energy to cleave those bonds. So clearly, microwaves do not have enough energy to break any of these bonds. Next slide, please. All right. So based on the microwave absorbance, or based on the loss tangent, the most commonly used solvents are classified into high absorbing, medium absorbing, and low absorbing. So the one on the left hand side of these on the slide are high absorbing solvents like ethylene glycol, ethanol, DMSO, etc. And as we move on the right side, we have solvents like toluene, hexane, which have very, very low tan delta, which means they absorb very, very poorly when working with microwaves. If you closely look at these solvents, then what we are talking about, high polar solvent to non-polar solvent. So higher the polarity, more is the absorbance of microwaves. Please go ahead. Next slide. So we can just skip the next slide. We already discussed about this. Yeah. So what are the advantages of the closed vessel and microwave? Because microwave on its own will not give us any real benefit, except for the fact that we can heat very fast. But if we want to go to high temperature, then we need to use closed vessels. So if we talk about the closed vessel, the first advantage is that we can go to enhanced temperature, that is higher temperature, and we can rapidly superheat the solvents in a sealed vessel. By doing so, we can reach higher pressure. Because of the higher temperature, because of Arrhenius law, the rate of reaction is much faster. So that will result in faster reactions. And also, in most of the cases, we get higher yields, which means less byproducts. Now, please, this is again, contradictory. On one hand, we say that microwaves do not have any impact on the way my chemical reaction will progress. At the other end, I say that this will produce higher yields. Well, it simply means that when we are heating with conventional setup, the time taken to reach the high temperature is too long, and as the heating is going on, we will have producing we will be producing a lot of byproducts, and higher the amount of byproducts would mean smaller quantities of the pure products that we are looking at. As against conventional heating, with microwaves we can reach high temperature very fast within few minutes, so we will have less chances of formation of these byproducts, which automatically means higher yields or more amount of the product or end product that we are interested in. Next, please. Rapid screening of the reaction, obviously, because it takes much shorter time. The reaction which takes 8 hours, we can finish within like less than 10 minutes. So we can screen more number of reactions in our lab, so we can have higher sample throughput. We have complete control over the reaction parameters, which means whatever reaction we are performing today, if I took the same reaction even after 6 months, I can have totally reproducible results with that. So that is the benefit of the closed vessel. And additional benefit of the microwave with the help of closed vessel is that we are able to produce direct in-core heating. So we don't have to go through the slow heating profiles. There are no temperature gradients because the vessel walls are not absorbing any heat. They are transparent to microwaves, so they're directly heating the reagents. So no chances of any wall effects. With microwaves, we could also use some metal catalyst, because metal, when we are using in the form of a sheet, it will reflect microwaves. However, when we use them as a fine particle, then these particles will also absorb microwave energy and they get superheated to very high temperatures. So we can have instantaneous reaction around those catalysts. So we can have activation of the catalyst, and it is also suited for automation. So we can have some auto sampler and we can already prepare multiple reactions and place them in the auto sampler. And one after the other, the auto sampler or robotic arm will pick the reaction vessel and perform the reactions. Next, please. So what are the challenges that typically one finds with using these microwaves in the lab? Next, please. One of the major challenge is that limited by the solvent type. So as we saw in that classification of the solvent where we said high, medium and low absorbing solvent. So the non-polar solvents, they are usually a little bit difficult to heat. Also, when we are working with solvents which have low boiling point like ethanol, and we want to go to high temperatures, then going to high temperatures sometimes is challenging. Scalability, they are good for producing milligram level of material, but what if I wanted to produce a kilogram, a couple of kilograms in a day? Many a times there is a challenge. And because most of the times we are going to use borosilicate glass vessel, which are not very compatible when we are using fluorination or alkaline solution. So these aggressive chemistries can be a challenge with the microwaves. Next, please. Yeah. So only polar solvent, as we discussed, only polar solvents are efficiently heated to elevated temperature. Non-polar solvents like toluene, hexane are usually not encouraged to be used, thereby limiting our chemistry. Of course, there have been developments over the years. So the reason behind this was usually many of the available instrument in those days used to have very low installed microwave power and low intensity of this microwave field in the cavity where we keep the reaction vessel. So how do we provide a solution? Is probably people, globally, they started to look at possibility of installing higher microwave power so that we can have higher amount of microwaves which are interacting with the reagents, and also having a mechanism where the cavity will tune itself according to whatever solvent we are keeping inside, so that the user need not really worry. So with the advancement in technology, this has been possible. So there are now microwaves available with really very high intensity of microwave field available and self-tuning cavity. So the user does not really need to worry about how much power to apply for a reaction. So as you can see, you could skip the next, go to the next slide, please. All right. So heating low boiling solvent to elevated temperature was again a problem. Like, if I'm working with solvent like ethanol, which has 78 to 80 degrees centigrade of boiling point, I want to go to 200 degrees centigrade. There was a challenge because most of the instrument in the earlier days used to have maximum pressure of only 20 bar. And at 20 bar of pressure, vapor pressure, ethanol can only go to around 150, 160 degrees centigrade. But people again, because we want to find solution to everything, every challenge. So people started to working around this problem. And if, people started to producing vessels which could take higher pressure. So if your vessel has a 30 bar of operating limit, you can easily go to about 200 degrees centigrade. And if there are now vessels available with even higher pressure, up to 300 degree, 330 bar, so you could really go to 250, 260 degrees centigrade without a problem. So now, with the available solution in the market, people can really go to really high temperatures. So this is next slide showing 20 bar and 30 bar element. Next slide. Yeah. So as you can see in the screen, if we are working only with 20 bar as the limit, we are limited with the maximum temperature. You increase the pressure limit and you can go to even higher temperature. Next. Also, a lot of time, especially people working with the pharmaceutical industry, we would like to use fluorides. But the problem with fluorides is that glass is not compatible. The fluorides immediately attack the silica and the glass breaks. Also, when you are working with alkaline solution, for example, if I wanted to use NaOH 20% and go to 180 degrees centigrade, the pH is 14. So at such high pH, it will start to corrode the reaction vessel. And within 2 or 3 reactions, my vessel will break. Next. So this is what happens to our reaction vessels when we are working with such aggressive chemistries. Next, please. So what is the solution? So probably find out a material which is compatible with such reactions. So for example, we could use TFM vessels. So TFM is quite non-corrosive, or silicon carbide vessel, which again is an inert material. So for example, a silicon carbide vessel is totally inert and it can work with any type of reaction without any problem. So something like that, this silicon carbide vessel. Yeah, next please. Another thing we work a lot is with metal catalysts. And as I said, the problem with metal catalysts is that metal sheet will reflect microwaves, but metal particles, they absorb microwave and they get superheated to 1800 degrees centigrade. What happens is when I take, when I'm working with a reaction and I take metal particles in that, and if I'm not stirring it well, then these metal particles, they float on the solution. And when the reaction starts, these metal particles, they get stuck on the walls of the vessel. And when they are radiated with the microwaves, they get superheated. The glass material has a melting point of around 1000 degrees centigrade, and these metal particles could go up to 1800 degrees centigrade. So what is the problem with that is that the reason that these metal particles keep floating on the surface of the solution is because of the poor stirring regime. So if people have started to work on that, and if we could increase the stirring speeds, then we can ensure that the metal particles are not floating, but they are within the solution. Next, please. So higher stirring speeds. So these are, now there are instruments available which can work up to 1200 RPM. So this is really very high speed of stirring. which ensures that all the material is within the solution and there are no deposition of these metal particles on the vessel walls. So that is about some of the challenges that people face with microwave. And moving on, what kind of different reactors are available? So there are different reactors available for synthesizing small scale reactions. Say I just wanted to synthesize 50 milligram or 100 milligram, I could take as low as 0.5 to 2 ml of the solution and just start working. If I wanted to produce a kilo lab scale, then of course I need to have a different setup where I can take larger amount of the reactants and start working with that. So next, please. So there are two types of reactors, monomode reactors and multimode reactors. So monomode reactors are basically useful for the small scale reaction. So if you look at this slide, so typically you will have the sample with the yellow solution in it. Imagine that this is the reaction vessel and it is kept inside a small cavity, which usually would be about 100 ml or 150 ml volume. And there is a magnetron which is producing microwaves that you see on the left hand side in this schematic. These microwaves are produced and they are just thrown in all directions. So we need to collate these microwaves. So what we use is a waveguide. This is just like this, how you work with spectrometers, where UV or visible light, by using these lenses, we are focusing it onto the sample chamber. So similarly with microwaves, because they are also part of this electromagnetic radiation, we can focus them onto the cavity where we have kept our reaction vessel. So with the help of this waveguide, we focus these microwaves onto the sample. So the microwave energy is created by a single magnetron and it is directed using waveguide to the sample. Next, please. And what we create is a standing wave kind of a situation, and we heat the reaction vessel. So with the monomode cavity, we are usually working with small volume of the reaction because of the small cavity size. And also we can work with one reaction at a time. As against this, multimode cavity would have a large cavity size, typically around 50-60 liters. Can you please click next? Yeah, thank you. So it will have a large cavity size, which is typically around 60-70 liters of volume. And because of the large volume of the cavity, if I'm using only a single magnetron, then it will not have enough microwave energy for the reaction. So typically a multimode reactor or a multimode cavity would have two magnetrons with higher installed power. So as you can see in this picture, you have two magnetrons which produce microwaves. These microwaves are then focused and brought to the cavity and then thrown it inside the cavity. And these microwaves will then hit the walls of the cavity and they are reflected back to the center. And at the center, instead of using a small vessel, we use a big vessel. Typically with a monomode instrument, you are using a 10 ml or maximum 30 ml vessel. In case of a multimode cavity instrument, we use about 100 ml volume vessel, and they are placed inside what we call as a rotor. And these rotors will have multiple positions, so you could even keep up to 16 number of samples at a time, and this rotor will rotate so that every vessel experiences same kind of microwave energy. Next, please. So we are introducing or exposing our samples to microwave in a chaotic manner, because once the microwaves enter the cavity, we don't have a control over the microwaves, so they are coming from everywhere. Next, please. And because it's a large volume, so we are heating it at a multiple points. So practical differences, if we see between multimode cavity and a monomode cavity, is a monomode cavity design has a small compact cavity size as against the large cavity of a multimode. With a monomode cavity or monomode instrument, we are typically working from 0.5 to 20-30 ml of the volume, whereas with a large scale multimode cavity, we can go up to 1 liter in multiple vessels. obviously, when we are working with small size of the sample or reaction mixture, so with monomode instrument, there is always a limited scale-up possibility. So probably, if I wanted to synthesize something like 1 gram, 2 gram, then monomode cavity is a good choice. But if I wanted to synthesize, say, 50 grams, and I have only monomode instrument, then I will have to run the same experiment maybe 20 times, so that finally I will have total around 50 grams of the material. Whereas with the multimode cavity, I could simply take large amount of reaction material and then complete my reaction to get higher sample quantities. So ideally suited for 50 to 100 grams in a single run. Because of the small cavity size, the monomode cavity has a higher field density, whereas in case of the multimode, because of large cavity size, it has a lower field density, relatively speaking. And because we are using multiple number of magnetrons there with multimode cavity, it has higher output power. So typically a multimode cavity instrument would have something like 2000 watts of installed power, whereas a monomode instrument, because you don't really require that high power, so it has around anywhere between 400 to 800 watts of installed power. In case of monomode cavity, as we by now have understood, large scale runs are time consuming, which means if I want to synthesize higher amount of material, I need to do same experiment multiple times. As against this, with a multimode cavity, small scale runs would be not very easy. So what does it mean is we need to understand one thing, that whatever I can do with monomode, I can do with multimode cavity also, and vice versa. The difference is what is the scale that I want to work with. That is only the major difference between the two. Next, please. Yeah, next. That's it. So these are the different type of reaction scales that we get with these instruments. So what you see in the top row are the possible carousels and setup available with the multimode instrument. Also the same thing at the bottom center, that you see two types of rotors on the screen, which says 16 into 6 by 60 ml, which means we can fill up these vessels and we can place them at 16 positions. We can fill them up between 6 ml up to 60 ml per vessel, and like that we can process up to 16 samples, which means I can process about 960 ml of the volume, almost a liter, in a single run. In the bottom left are the vials for the monomode instrument, which can work up to 20 ml with different reaction vessel sizes. And in the extreme right that you see is again a multimode instrument with a single 1 liter vessel, where I can process up to 750 ml at a time. Next, please. Next. Yeah. So these are the different instruments available with micro and power, as you can see from left to right. We have monomode instruments, which obviously the name suggests mono waves, means monomode microwave, so mono wave. And you have multi-wave 5000, which is like multi-mode instrument, and microwave, so the name is multi-wave 5000. Next, please. Next. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so these are the typical solvents that we use with synthesis instruments. And typically monomode instruments have a pressure limit of up to 30 bar. So as you can see, these are the different curves of temperature versus the pressure for each of the solvent. And as you can see, with a pressure limit, working pressure limit of up to 30 bar, monomode instrument, typically you can work to around 200, 220, 240 degrees centigrade. But if you want to go beyond that, then usually we need to move to the multimode reactors, where you have possibility of going up to 80 bar of vapor pressure. So there, somebody wanted to work with, let's say, nanomaterial synthesis, and wants to use water as the reagent and wants to perform near critical water chemistry, go to almost 300 degrees centigrade. There the pressure, vapor pressure of water is 80 bar. So there, if I wanted to do such kind of reactions, then I would move on to the vessel which can withstand that kind of temperature. So this basically graph or this screen, it is giving a correlation between the maximum temperature that one can achieve with different type of reagents using a monomode reactor or a multimode reactor. Next slide, please. These are some of the different accessories available with these instruments, and of course these are available with almost all manufacturers on the market. So the top left is basically a gas loading accessory, so where many a times I may want to perform reactions under certain controlled conditions. So I may want to add an inert gas, or I may want to add some reactive gas. So I can use this accessory and I can pre-pressurize my reaction vessel with a gas of my choice. In the center top, you see is a camera with monomode instrument, so I can see my reaction, how it is working on the screen, and I can also create movies and capture the images. Then top right is the auto sampler or a robotic arm, so I can prepare my reactions beforehand and I can place them, load them onto the robot, this microwave robo, and one after the other, the robotic arm will pick my vessel and place it inside the microwave instrument. And after the experiment is over, again pick it and place it back to the original position and move on to the next reaction. Next, please. So monomode reactors, next. Typically, you have a maximum temperature of around 300 degrees centigrade with a maximum pressure of about 30 bar. So as we saw, the solvents or reagents which are low boiling, with 30 bar limit, we can work around 200 to 220 degrees centigrade. For solvents which are really high boiling, we can go to even higher temperature. It has options like fiber optic sensor, so with the internal temperature probe in junction with the IR sensor, so it can monitor the internal temperature also. And we have Mono 450, which is basically nothing but an auto sampler unit with the instrument. Please go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the different vials typically available with these small scale reactor. So you have, for the very smallest volume, I don't want to consume a lot of solvent when I'm standardizing my reaction, or when I'm just doing screening. I don't know what I want to do, find out, or what I want to produce, but I don't have the optimized conditions. So I don't want to use large quantity of the reagents because they are quite expensive, and many times they are not also very environmental friendly. So I could start with as low as 0.5 ml, as you can see on the left side of the image, with this 2 ml volume or 4 ml vessel. I just take 0.5 ml of the total volume, standardize my reaction conditions, and then I could use these 30 ml vials, which are on the right side of the screen, and directly scale it up to 20 ml. So I could do 40 times scale up of my reaction without changing any reaction parameters, of course. And what you see in the bottom of the screen in this image are the sealing materials. So you have the snap caps and septa. So these are basically the accessories that you use for these reactions. Next, please. We spoke about the reactions which are not compatible with glass material. So we have silicon carbide for such kind of applications. So you could do fluorination hydroxide solutions. Next. Also, silicon carbide is quite unique in the way that silicon carbide as a material, it absorbs all the microwaves and it itself gets heated up. And at the same time, it also has a very high thermal diffusivity. So which means it also releases the heat very fast. So we can also use silicon carbide vessel to heat reactions which may be totally microwave transparent. As you can see in this picture, that we take glass vessel and we are heating toluene. So the gray graph is for heating of toluene to 250 degrees centigrade. And as you can see, it takes pretty long time. Same thing, if I used silicon carbide, I can go to 250 degrees centigrade within less than 100 seconds. So just about a couple of minutes, and I'm already at 250 degrees centigrade. So that is another advantage of silicon carbide material. Next, please. Also, in this image, what you see is at one end we have hexane, which is very poor absorber of microwaves, and at the other end you have these ionic solution, one of the ionic solution or ionic liquids, which has very high absorbance of microwaves because of high concentration of ionic molecules, and it will shoot the temperature very fast. As a user, I do not want either of the situation. I neither want to go very slow in heating because we are losing the time, nor I want to heat my reaction very fast because then I lose the control over the reaction. So as you can see in the right image, when we use silicon carbide, both of these reagents can be heated with more or less same kind of temperature profile. So I get better control over the reaction. Next, please. Next. Yeah. Also, silicon carbide helps us to control any thermal runaways reactions. We can go to next. Yeah, thank you. So fluorination reactions can be performed without any problem with silicon carbide. We saw this image in the previous slide. Next. That with glass vessel, usually they break with fluorination. Same thing happens when we are using alkaline solution, but with silicon carbide, you don't have a problem. Next, please.
Amrish sir, I'm requesting you to just, if possible, conclude the talk in a short period so that we will be able to go ahead with the virtual.
Perfect. So, we can just go to the next slides. When you have camera, yeah, this is what you can see with the camera on the screen. And next, please. Next. So this is something which you can capture with the instrument, and you can also create your movies. Next, please. Next. Yeah. So when you want to go for the scale up, then these are the kind of rotors available with the manufacturers that you can use. And as you can see, instead of a single vessel, here you have different multiple vessels which you can fill, and depending on your application requirement, you can fill them up from 6 ml to 60 ml each of the vessel, and you can produce maybe 50 to 100 grams of the material. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Well, so with the available options, you can go to the previous slide, please. Previous slide. Yeah. So with microwaves, you can synthesize from milligram, where you can do method optimization, as well as you can go up to kilolab scale without any problem. If we skip few slides, we also have some application examples. If you would be, I think it would be interesting. We can just skip this mono 50 thing and go to the next slides. These are some of the examples of how we can use, we can even go further, because here the comparison is also only with the high pressure reactors. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So there's one example of drug discovery where we are talking about synthesis of heterocycles. So there is an example of synthesis of benzometer salts. As you can see from the table, at atmospheric pressure, we work usually at around 60 degrees centigrade, and it takes about 3 days to complete this reaction. When you work with closed vessel, you can really, and if you have a setup where you could go up to 30 bar of pressure, then you can work up to 270 degrees centigrade, and your reaction can be over within a really short time. So the benefit is we can reach extreme condition very fast, and this really reduces our time from 3 days to maybe few minutes. Next, please. There's another example, synthesis of pyrazoles. There's a multi-step reaction with overnight reactions, and compared this, of course, there's at room temperature with overnight reactions, and compared to this overnight with microwaves, we can work at up to 260 degrees centigrade, and we are finished with the first step within 2 minutes. The next step again is within 2 minutes, and the third step within 5 minutes. And as you can see, with conventional method, it takes about 2 days to complete this reaction with a yield of only around 25%. When you use a closed vessel with microwaves, we can finish this reaction within less than an hour and an improved yield. Next. Yeah, next please. So there is an example where we can also create a gaseous environment for our reaction, and as you can see, we can pre-pressurize up to 7 bar our reaction vessels. So we can simply apply the gaseous reagents without any problem. For each individual vessel, we can pre-pressurize it, and we can parallelly process multiple reactions. Again, when we talk about totally non-polar solvent for scale-up applications, pure solvent does not heat up very well. So when we add the silicon carbide heating elements, we can go to high temperature. Next, please. As you can see in this case, so just by adding these heating elements of silicon carbide, we can go to high temperature. Even with toluene, we can go to 250 degrees centigrade and finish our reaction within 20 minutes. The next slide basically shows us an industrial example where we can go from, we can synthesize small scale material. Once we have identified the right route, we can just simply scale it up, from 10 millimolar to up to 3.3 and 3600 millimolar without any problem, with similar kind of yields as you can see in the table. So these are different type of reaction vessel that you can use, and we are working at 250 degrees centigrade very fast. Next, please. Well, so these are some of the examples of some reactions that you can perform. Next. So as you can see in this example, we can really do industrial relevant transformation where we want to synthesize up to kilolab without a problem in a day. Next, please. Because there's one of the challenge or one of the question all the scientists working with the closed vessel, they have that I can standardize small scale experiment, but how do I scale it up? Next, please. So, well, these are some of the examples as you can see. We could skip this if, there's another example of going to really high temperature, and you can see the scale that we can synthesize. So initially, today with all the development in the technology, the microwave instruments have also become very, very easy to operate, and they have a possibility to replace the Bunsen burners completely from an organic chemistry lab. Also, there are some interesting books that are available. So next, please. Next. Yeah. So if anybody is interested to know more in depth about the microwave chemistry, they could write directly to me, and we will be more than glad to provide you with a free copy of this book, which basically talks about the basics of the microwave technology and how you can make the best out of it. It also has the list of references, the published articles, which you can refer to anytime. And this is written by two leading names in the microwave chemistry. So Dr. Jennifer Kremsner and Dr. Alexander Stadler, who have been the students of Dr. Oliver Kape, who has published over 2,500 different research papers. And Dr. Alexander Stadler was the first person to do his PhD with microwave chemistry in the Europe. Next, please. So next slides, they just explain what you can expect in this book. Next. Yeah, for those of you, the previous slide, please. Yeah, for those of you who are interested to know more about this, there is also a book available by Professor Oliver Kape titled Microwaves in Organic and Medicinal Chemistry. They are available over at the bookstores. You can purchase them. This really has a very detailed information about the microwave chemistry. Next, please. And we also have published a teaching guide for the colleges. So this has standard 17 experiments, which one can also implement in their own syllabus. So well, with this, I come to an end of my presentation. I think, well, I was well within the time allotted to me.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, thank you so much. Your talk was indeed very informative, and the comments that we have received talks about the same. The session was really very elaborative, and it was touching absolutely the industrial aspects and how the microwave is being used in the industry. So for all of us as an academicians, literally it will have given many more insights to think upon. So thank you so much, sir, for joining with us. Let us yeah. Uh, Let us try to connect Mr. Sultan, associated with Anton Pharma, so that he will be able to take us to the virtual tool, if possible.
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I think there is still some technical glitch at his end. So I request my team members to just share the videos that we can show it to all our audience.
Maybe you could just expand the window so that it becomes full screen.
Monowave 50 is a compact, conventionally heated synthesis reactor with the performance of a microwave. The reactor design of Monowave 50 delivers heating rates comparable to microwave reactors. This means the same yield and product purities are achieved. With a footprint of only 20 by 40 centimeters, Monowave 50 takes up minimum lab space. With these dimensions, it even fits into the busiest lab and is ready to simplify your work. Weighing only 8.5 kilograms, the instrument can be easily transported between laboratories and can be safely operated outside a fume hood. With plug-and-play installation, the instrument is up and running in less than 5 minutes. Reaction vessels and caps can be used multiple times, reducing not only consumable costs, but also the environmental impact. Programming experiments is straightforward via Monowave 50's touchscreen. Anton Par's high safety standards ensure
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving us the permission to take a virtual tour. We have Mr. Sultan with us. So may I request?
Sultan, the screen is not horizontal.
Yeah.
Sultan, we see screen tilted 90. Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sir, we request you to just start your virtual tour, and it would be great if you could just add a commentary behind it so that we will be able to understand it in a better way.
Great.
If you can see now the video and my audio is also audible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes, Sultan, you are audible.
It is perfect.
Okay.
You just go on adding the important points so that it would be more beneficial to all of us.
Probably, Sultan, you could take the camera closer to the instrument so that we can see the instrument more closely.
Yeah. So hello everybody. Good evening. My name is Sultan Singh and I am basically handling the microwave range of product for Anton Par India Private Limited, and I am being with this company from last 8 years of time now. And today I am going to take you through the microwave synthesis range. So if you are able to see that this is our microwave range of product, which is monowave 400, which is one of the model, in which we can use these type of vials which are available. So you have this 30 ml vial, 30 ml vial and 10 ml vial. These are simple normal vials, glass vials, which are there. You need to add your solvent with the reactant mixture, and you just simply close these vials with your hand and you put into your microwave system there. After that, you program your reaction from your screen, whatever may be, like suppose as discussed during the session that we are able to go to higher temperature and pressure conditions with the microwave. So if suppose you are using any solvent, for example, like say methanol or ethanol, which has a boiling point of around like say 80 degrees centigrade, with this instrument we can go up to like 200 degrees centigrades, so to fast up your reaction. The instrument vials which are being there, these vials can handle the temperatures up to 300 degrees centigrades and 30 bar of pressure. So like what I have taken is basically I have taken a solvent here and with a stirring. So the normal stirring with the instrument is like from anywhere from 0 to 1200 rpm. You can set your reaction according to your requirement. Like suppose if you go onto the screen, you will be able to see that I program the reaction. So test VS College. I'm able to go to say suppose 200 degrees centigrades and say 30 ml of vial now. Whole times of like 24 hours, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, depending upon your reaction. Mostly the microwaves are used for speeding up a reaction. So it is basically like 5 to 10 minutes of time for the whole time. Like sometimes you can see there are reactions wherein only 2 minutes of hold times are being there. So you put your reaction time as say 2 minutes or stirring speed anywhere from like to 1200 rpms, and just you start your reactions. This is how the instrument is basically being set up, and you go to your target temperatures in it. Everything is being monitored, controlled. Once the reaction is being completed, then you get a graph like this. If you see the details, that every step, all your entire like reaction is being monitored here. So it is temperature, pressure, power, each and every point is being recorded, and you can take out the printouts of the reactions which are being done onto this instrument. At any point of time, if you want to see what was the temperature at particular point, that can be viewed into it. Now my colleague Mr. Rahul Sharma will introduce you for the Viscometer range of products, so which is being used for measuring the viscosity of your.
So basically, this is rotating viscometer. With the help of viscometer, you can measure the viscosity, and this is based upon the rotational pipe principle. And with the help of this rotating viscometer, you will get the viscosity, the dynamic viscosity. With the help of viscosity, you can determine certain parameter, which is really important within your production, which is output filling your mixer. So once you have an idea about the viscosity, definitely you can control these parameter, which is a coupling filling, and you can formulate your new formulation, and you can determine certain behavior property.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. You are not audible.
Once you determine this viscosity, and after that you
Sir,
can
you are not audible. Can you just
certain parameter, which is spreadability and your measurement. So basically, in case of viscometer, you can correlate with the absolute measurement. There are certain rheological property that can be determined with the help of your chemicals, pharma companies, and there are certain within the research institutes, those who are using
your samples. You need to put your samples in this thing and you can measure the viscosity. So these are the different type of spindles are available. On the basis of viscosity, you can select these things. So this is really important just to identify this viscosity with the help of these spindles. And if you see, you can correlate with your other applications like the value you will get in the CPS, millipascal, and the centistone. So basically, with the help of this viscometer, you can determine the dynamic viscosity and the kinematic viscosity. And if you have, apart from this, the flow behavior can be determined with the help of viscometer. Thank you.
He is little down to.
हाँ सर, हाँ सर बताइए.
By the time, let us take a few questions which we have. Yeah. So let me take the questions to you. First question is most probably I think Amrish sir would able to help us with this. Can we use microwave for force degradation studies of compound? Sir, you will have to unmute yourself. Sir, you are muted.
Now it's audible. Now connected
Thank
again.
you.
All right. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, sure. This instrument can definitely be used for force degradation studies. In fact, if I talk about this US Pharmacopoeia, their Indian chapter in Hyderabad, they are using our instrument for carrying out these force degradation studies. So the answer is yes, it can be used.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. There is one more question regarding the application of microwave. So can you just highlight the application of microwave in the physical complex reactions, for example, cyclodextrin complexation?
Well, as I mentioned, in my presentation, that microwaves, we should consider them as a heating device, and they are working well with the closed vessel. We can take the best advantage of that. So any type of reaction that requires heating and it will not degrade at those temperature. You can think of any organic reaction, any inorganic reaction. This is widely used in nanomaterial synthesis. In fact, I was talking to a colleague in France. They are also using this to one of their clients are using this for fast aging of alcohol. So any kind of reaction that requires temperature can be used with the microwaves can be used for that. Absolutely no problem.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is one more question. Can we use microwave for CH activation reaction?
I'm sorry, I did not hear this well.
The question is given at the bottom as well, sir. Can we use microwave for CH activation reactions? Carbon hydrogen bond activation.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. I can see the question now. So yes, you can use it for this application also.
There is one question from student. He has asked, is there any mechanism for stirring in the microwave? If any
Absolutely.
reaction demands for stirring, is there any provision?
Absolutely. In fact, if you are using a microwave reactor without stirring, then you will never be able to get accurate and reproducible results. So it is always very, very important. Even if I'm taking only 5 ml of the volume, or even if I take 2 ml of the volume, the stirring is very, very important. If you don't have stirring mechanism in place, you will have a lot of gap in temperature at different points across the volume. So all the modern day microwave reactors, they have magnetic stirring facility available in the instrument.
Okay. Thank you so much. There is one more question. that normally we use plastic microwavable containers which will themselves withstand the microwave radiations. But in presence of microwave radiation, the reaction mixture may interact with the plastic. So how to resolve this issue? So it is
Well,
probably the raw material and the apparatus interaction, something that is being discussed upon.
right, right. So there are different type of vial materials available. So I mean, if we have a reaction which might actually react with the TFM, then you have options of using quartz vessels, or you have the options of using glass vessels. So that quartz is quite clean material which will not interact with your reaction. The only thing is you cannot use fluorination with quartz. So that we need to take into consideration.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I am going through the comments meanwhile, and everyone has appreciated it a lot, and everyone has said that it was very informative and the excellent session. So, if there are any few more questions, I am sure the speakers would be able to be connected in that case.
Sure.
Meanwhile, can I? Yeah, thank you so much. Meanwhile, can I ask Mr. Sultan, sir, if we are going to have a demonstration of the viscometer again? Because there was a problem with the voice. So if we can able to connect him, let us take a try.
Sure.
Hello.
Sir, I request you to take a viscometer demo.
Uh, yeah, hello everyone. So basically, I'm here just to give you a small representation of viscometer. So viscometer is something which is it's really important whenever you are measuring viscosity of any liquid. So viscosity is nothing; it is the internal frictions. So with the help of this viscometer, you can determine the viscosity. This is a spindle type viscometer, and yeah, so basically in this viscometer, it is a rotational type viscometer. We are using a certain spindle to measure the viscosity. There are different spindles are available to measure the viscosity from the low viscous to high viscous material. This viscosity is really important whenever you are designing certain formulation, certain materials, and with the help of viscometer, you can determine certain pumping, filling, and your mixing capabilities. Along with this, there are certain other method which is basically that will give you the idea about the flip behavior property. Either it is Newtonian, non-Newtonian. There are certain method which is with the help of this thing you can determine the yield point, yield stress, flow behavior, shear thinning index. So we are using in a two formats. So there's a beaker required to measure this viscosity with the spindles, and apart from this, with the sample volume of 2 ml, you can measure the viscosity. So this viscosity is really important whenever you are working certain R&D projects. You on your in your pharmacy colleges, and there are certain institute which is like the chemical institute like ICT and IPER. So the people are more concerned about the viscosity. So along with viscosity, again once you put the density, you will get a kinematic viscosity also, which is really important in the petrochemical applications. So viscosity you can measure. There are different instruments are available to measure the viscosity with the different samples. So for the low viscous, we have a LV model. For the regular viscosity, which is a kind of paint, shampoos and creams, we have a R model. For kind of samples like for the bitumen samples and the ointment samples, we have this Visco QC 100H. So with the help of the different module, you can measure the viscosity. And apart from this, with the help of software, you can generate a graph, you can generate a flow curve, viscosity curve, and with the help of this viscosity and flow curve, you can determine the flow behavior of your liquid. So viscosity, density, and are really important. Apart from this, we are having one more instrument and one more technique which I'm going to discuss, which we called as a digital polarimeter. So in this digital polarimeter, this is our, so I'm handing over. So apart from this, this is our rotational. If you see, the polarimeter is something which is required to check the optical rotation. In this optical rotation, we are putting a certain samples in. These are the vials which we are using in here. We are putting a sample. So this is a sample compartment, and how this polarimeter will work. So with the help of polarimeter, you can determine the chirality and the optical rotations. Apart from this, if you have a concentration determination, so you can determine the specific optical rotations. This optical rotation is really important whenever we are talking about the purity of samples. So once you have a pure samples, you can determine easily. Once you have adulteration, so there will be a change in your optical rotations. So this is a sample tube, this is your light, and this is your detector. So we are filling this samples, we are filling this tube with the samples, and we are putting inside the instruments. So there is a light which is a led. This led passes through these things. Either it is rotating left or right, the percentage of degree can be determined, and you will get on the screen in terms of optical rotation. So basically there is a detector available. So with the help of this thing, you can determine the optical rotation, and this optical rotation will give you the purity check of your samples. Moreover, like many of pharma companies and the colleges are using the same techniques, but in their either they are using conventional or advanced one. So this is an advanced instrument where you are using a single wavelength and have an option of multiple wavelength. So with the help of optical rotations, you can determine the purity of your samples. Thank you. Do you have any questions? We can have a question answer session in term for the viscometer or and your polarimeter.
Was indeed a great surprise to all of us because we could able to see actual working of the models. Thank you so much, sir. And indeed, the Amrish sir, thank you so much for your wonderful talk.
Hello,
Thank you very
Mr.
much for having us here.
Hello, Mr. Amrish Dave. This is Dr. Supriya Shide. And on behalf of the College of Pharmacy, we all are immensely thankful to you. The session was very insightful. I'm a pharmacy research scholar, but I could understand many mechanisms and principles in microwave synthesis. The virtual tour also went on very well. We have been hearing about fit model, but we had not seen your model of Viscometer, and we could see it is very easy to operate. Also, we were fascinated to see the polarimeter because we have been using a conventional polarimeter, and yes, this can be addition to our instrument lab. So the entire session has been delivered very well, and I know that your team Gurgaon was connected to us. So that is the technology. Otherwise, it was not possible for us to visit your facility there. But you could make it happen through the technology. So on behalf of all the delegates, our college team, we are really grateful to you. And we look forward to working with you in future too.
Thank you so very much for your kind words, ma'am. It was really a pleasure to be part of your entire event. And truly, the technology has made things so much possible that people sitting in different part of the world today come together and make it happen. So it was really nice.
I would also like
Unfortunately,
to add here, it is just not about today's viewers, but I'm very sure this particular channel will be viewed by many more people in the days to come because it is all word of mouth. Since you have shared such informative presentation and also the journey of your lab, the tour of your lab was really interesting. So I'm sure there are many more viewers who are going to visit our channel and they are going to listen to your presentation. I'm very sure about it.
I'm sure about it too, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir. So coming to the concluding part of today's session, first of all, let me thank all of you all for your patient listening and staying tuned with us from 2, it is now up to around 6 o'clock. So around for 4 hours. Thank you so much for your kind praises. I would like to have few announcements for all of you. There is a feedback link shared in the description box and in the Telegram group. So kindly do feel the feedback. Your feedback is very valuable for all of us. Please subscribe our channel to get many such new notifications. And of course, for tomorrow's schedule, we will meet at 2 p.m. sharp with the hardcore chemistry topics and to know more about computer-aided drug discovery. I thank each one of you all and thank you so much. Good day. Bye.